Oh, we're starting a whole 1 minute early. Awesome, amazing. I'm so roasting, dude. I'm overheating like fucking crazy. Shit. We're gonna be okay. Yeah. Alright. That's reset fully. Brilliant. My phone is jingling. Fucking man, shut up. Okay. What's good? Oh my god, it's so warm. I'm not sure if I can do this today. These lights. We'll do this, but maybe not this. The lights. Ladies and gentlemen, how has your day been this fine Saturday evening? Right? Yes. It's Saturday. Had to double check. Sorry. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, had a whole ass event of a day. Can't wait to hear what you guys got going on as well. Also, Cult and Lamb gameplay. This apparently is PAX East's. Gameplay with apparently no damage boss. I assume that means no damage taken from the boss. I would assume that's the pretext of the video. Regardless, we have a lot to talk about today. I did not make a list. Unlike, I was really good. It was a good thing that we did last time. I made a list of stuff to talk to you guys about. I did not do that today. So this might be a little bit more janky. But granted, this week, man, I don't know what it is about the... Like, maybe it's just the summer heat or something like that, but I feel like it's a fever dream. I feel like this time is moving so distorted. It's not even, like, fast. It just feels like I feel sick. I feel sick. But, oh, my God, dude. I have never had such a horrible sleeping experience recently. You know, people say, like, oh, I love it when it's, like, thundering and, like, raining when I'm going to sleep because it's just nice and comforting. Well, there's a high end of that, which is too much. Which is specifically when you're hearing like crackling that's basically like gunshots outside of your house. And now some people are gonna be like, dude, that was my childhood, and I just feel sad. Which sure, I mean, it's a weird point of pride, but okay. But yeah, it was I don't know, something so freaky about a certain level of loudness that just makes it immediately like freak out, panic. You feel like a little bit of what is it called? Not dopamine, not. It's like a stress chemical, basically. It's just like I don't forget the name of it, but yeah, you just have a peak of that. Also, man, dude, every time I see this game, I'm a little bit scattered, but every time I see this game, it looks so fun. It looks like it's just hard not to be like, let go and just have a good time. Granted, I am worried, as I always am, that these games that are like so fun and formatted are kind of just a premise of like you have a setup, you have a climax, and then it basically just winds down, and that's basically the whole shtick, which is a little bit shitty, because again, there's so many games like this that I feel like if they did the Binding of Isaac, which I think Binding of Isaac at this point has made like a roguelike mode, or like a infinite respawning like randomness simulator essentially. So I feel like they've got to do that eventually. I feel like they might have got ahead on that, hopefully. But they did talk about how there's other like cults, so there might be some sort of like warring tribes. I don't know if I love the multiplayer aspect of this. I think I just want like a builder sim with a Binding of Isaac combat sim, and I'd be pretty juiced up, pretty happy. Although I don't know how you take damage necessarily, because it does seem like you have like pretty back-to-back dodges. I think when you start seeing the boss fights and there's like tons of like waves of fire, that starts to make a little more sense. But yes. Also, what's good, Lone Syndicate? Lone Syndicate says, "What's up, Grin? I shall return." Oh, did you just? Goddamn, you working also on weekends? Fuck. Will you return like the last 10 minutes? Because I'll appreciate that a lot. But also, I hope you just get home safe, buddy. On a side note, what do you call it? I wanted to talk to you guys about. I kind of want to show you, but I feel like it might be a little bit like too much info. You know what I mean? Maybe too much info. But what do you call it? I went and seen a beautiful house recently, and it's funny because. How do I put it? I'm not. This is not the time to be like wishful thinking about houses, because houses are expensive now, even when like they shouldn't be. They're expensive. Hopefully, well, I don't know what the hell's gonna happen, but hopefully it gets better. Probably won't. Or if it is, it's gonna get worse. Then it's gonna get better. Anyway, doom and gloom aside, what do you call it? This house was. There's something to me about houses that are truly like off and like different that is just so much more appealing than like gigantism kind of thing, like just huge fucking massive spaces, tons of wood everywhere, wood walls, all that. Looks like a fucking shitty like golf course bar essentially. But like PewDiePie nails this, I think, when he was doing his what do you call it, the review of his various people's houses, essentially, where a lot of it's like bigness for the sake of like, fuck it, I can have 1,000 square feet or something, right? And I never got that. I feel like that was always it never resonates with me. I always just feel like it's pointless. Like to me, the one thing that I despise when I'm looking at all these houses, because I kind of went down the rabbit hole where like your family member sends like one house and you're like, that looks amazing, and then you're bored and you're like, I'm gonna look up some houses just because fuck it. I'm also getting older. This is probably part of the process, you know. HTCV, whatever the fucking like house channel is every old person watches, which is actually pretty soothing. I digress. What do you call it? I was looking through all of these houses, and then I finally found one that was like super different and weird, and it was basically like a barn, but this barn had like just the most beautiful arrangement of things. Like there was so much intent, which I think that to me makes and breaks the house so much. Like I would rather have a house with 3 rooms that like were nailed to what they actually were, how they fed into each other, how everything kind of followed the same kind of style, like nothing was too crazy. And I don't know why. Also, as much as I might be like a basic bitch, I really enjoy like the black, white, gray kind of like contrastiness to like stylized stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm basic, but I think it just makes me, whenever I see like a room that's completely white with maybe some like dark highlights or some weird stuff, some weird thing like that, it makes my brain feel like it's almost like a representation of your mind. You know, some people want like color and craziness, and I feel like people who want those things are people who don't have those things in their head all the time, because it's just like I don't need more chaos in my brain. If I need order out here because it's chaos in here. You know what I mean? I think that's why also some people don't like choose any sort of clothing. Like they're wearing like the what is it called, Steve Jobs turtleneck situation, which is a little weird. I think it's just to basically take away all excess choice, etc., so that you can just kind of focus on the real choices and problems you have to deal with in the day. I feel like at that point you're probably fucking up. I feel like there's probably something wrong where it's like you can't make a clothing choice which takes 5 minutes. Like you're wasting that. Like no, I need that 5 minutes of choice for this other big question. I don't know. It just seems like a weird. You can make a give on clothing maybe. But also there are people who like the most expansive clothing, which to me is equally silly. If you look nice, you know. But anyways, the whole point of this, the reason why I was telling you guys is the whole idea of, have you guys ever looked at a house, or have you guys ever, how do I phrase this in a question that makes sense? What is something tangible that would motivate you, that it isn't like relationship based, it's purely like physical, like a physical thing, like a house, like a car? What is it to you that would really ignite you to start to like strive? And to me, this is probably one of like the biggest issues I have as a person. One of the things that I kind of figured out pretty fast, at least to me, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I think in some ways I'm right, in some ways I'm wrong. It depends on what you want out of life. But the sooner you can be in a place of like comfort and like mental space wise, like you can truly be at a place where you're just harmony itself. You're at peace. Need not of the world, kind of, whatever that means, basically. Essentially, you know, instead of saying, you know, I need this car, I need this house, I need this thing, whatever you do have, try to make that enough. And it's okay to want more, but it's also good to just know that you have a baseline of like, I'm good, I can get by with this. And I've heard people talk about this in regards to relationships, of like, well, you should probably never try to hunt for a relationship in desperation, because then you'll just find people and make a concession on things that you actually care about, like things that are actually meaningful. And then you'll have like really successful people who have like really shitty wives, and it's because they were probably so lonely and they had so much extra capital that they thought, yeah, my wife's spending half of what I make, this sex is great or something, you know, like they'll have this takeaway. And to me, I think it's always it's a good idea to be like, oh wait, this way, if you know you can survive with X, then you don't need Y. therefore you're in a place of quote unquote power to basically say like, I'm not okay with this. Like, I don't want this. You know, if someone's treating you poorly, you don't have to say, I need this friendship. You could just be like, you know what, I'm okay. I know I'll be all right. And then you'll say no. And then that puts you in a place of like actually being pretty, like controlling your life to some extent. And also controlling your happiness, which is super important, because that's like, if not the main question for most people, is I want to be happy, and etc. But I will say that if you want to have certain things in life, it probably helps to have some sort of desire, some sort of burning thing that you're like, I want that, and what enables me to get that, you know? And sometimes the want of a thing can be as simple as like, I don't want to be alone, I don't want to be starving, poor, you know, etc. So these are the things that can be your foundation of motivation, is the fear. This is a thing I've heard a lot in like within motivational stuff, which is like, you know, keep think about the horribleness of the outcome, like the feeling of how lost or how much regret you would have for not going up and talking to that person, for not, you know, reaching out and asking if the person was okay. You know, think about how think about the selfishness of it, basically, how it affects you, and then you'll be like motivated to reach out and help another, or shoot your shot or something, whatever it could be. But to me, I've always, again, because I come from that place of being like, I'm pretty chill with just my little corner of this small earth, etc. And even then, it's funny. I recently seen this house, and it's extremely. It's not like. It's pretty excessive. Like it costs a lot, but then everything costs a lot now, so it's kind of hard to gauge as well. Regardless of like the tangibility of this thing. To me, it was one of those moments where I was like, I've seen houses 1,000 times before. I've seen 1,000 cars before. I've seen everything that seems to motivate so many people. But this was one of those times where I actually, like, interfaced hard with one of them, which was the house. I thought when I walked around this house, I thought, this is just perfect. Like, everything in this house had intent, which was awesome. Like, it was a barn, essentially, that they, like, refurbished. They gave heating floors. There's no basement, unfortunately. I always feel like the basement is a underloved aspect of the house, because it's really good with temperature control, all this stuff. Anyways, also soundproofing for my dumbass is also great. Anyways, but it had like this beautiful open area, because it was like a barn. The back of the house had like all of the rooms, and then they had like this open area that was basically just windows that just peered in light, and it was beautiful. Also, it had a shit ton of land on it. Like too much land, to where you're like, I don't know what to do with all of this. This is the definition of too much. And yeah, this is just a pain in the ass to manage. Just a bunch of cutting grass constantly. Madness. Anyways. Yeah, nevertheless, I seen this house, and man, I don't know, there was something about it that, to me, again, for the first time in a long time, I felt really, really motivated to be like, maybe we could, like, because I'm one of the things that I'm doing right now in this, I don't mean to say this in like a super critical way, or like what's the word, dramatic way, but I do feel like some days, especially this last month, I felt like I'm kind of suffering, essentially. I know it sounds a bit much, it probably is too strong of a word, but it's a good way to describe kind of the feeling, which is basically like I wake up, I'm reviewing this course, and I'm going overboard because I know it's important, but because I so desperately want to learn, I want to yield something, I want to actually, have this future and make this work, I'm kind of pushing myself right around the brink of like growing pains, to the point where like it's at some points it's just painful, at some points you're like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but let's do 5 more hours, and that can be kind of like you're sitting in like this suffering thing. And if you're like me, who comes from this idea of like, well, I don't really need all of this stuff, but then you're also like, but I desperately want to attain my ambition, I guess, is what you call it, this grand goal, this thing that you've been working for. I think the good idea is to like take a minute, don't ever break. It's okay to push, but don't ever break yourself. So slow down to the point where you start to find you're getting to that point. I kind of felt like I was getting to that in waves. And if you don't ever give yourself a proper time to recover, then you're just giving yourself a day and then jumping back on it, so your muscles have like a little bit of time to recover, but not as much, so it kind of is the same idea of like muscular breakdown as mental breakdown, at least I think. But with that being said, I yeah, there's something different. There's something like innately within, I think, human being's brain, which is like release a chemical into your brain that says, "Oh wait, no, this is worth suffering for." You know what I mean? And it's, I don't really know how to put it into words, to tell you the truth. Like I go, like, again, the best example is like, well, I don't need this, but then you find something that you're like, but I would love this if I had it. Like, I think this would be wonderful. I think this would be something I would endlessly appreciate. And like, you finally find a reason why maybe creating a business and maybe succeeding and maybe making some money would actually yield something that you'd be happy to be in the presence of, which was this house for me. I thought this house was like, again, I've always seen 1,000 houses, I've seen $1 million houses, dream homes, etc., and they all just look like the definition of excessive and meaninglessness. Like, oh, you have a movie room, and it's like, how good are you gonna, like, you're gonna have this one room for this one specific 2-hour activity? Seems kind of weird. I'm sure, like, it's nice, but I feel like it'd get underused. It'd be weird unless you love the shit out of movies and you watch movies as your like main entertainment sports source. Sure, but for me, I like just like having a monitor in front of me and watching something as I'm sitting there, like just taking it in. So for me, it never resonated. Same thing with like a bathroom. Like, I love, like, a nice fucking bathroom is amazing to me. But then sometimes they're just like, we gave you all this space in this bathroom, and you're like, what? What? Could you just put a sauna in there or something? Could you use that space? That's the best way I feel like I can describe my feeling with houses, is that could you just use the space? I don't mean clutter it. I mean have it have intent and purpose. Anyways, so long story short, I seen this house. And by the way, I've seen this house in online, essentially. And we recently went there today. That was what we did, kind of talked to my whole family about. We went there as kind of like a family outing kind of thing. And yeah, it was interesting, because as soon as I pulled up, I immediately, because I've been thinking about this for a while. I was like, wow, this is actually like a really cool source of motivation for me. Like, it's actually making me grind like 5 times harder. I say grind, I hate that word, but like, it's making me focus 5 times harder and making me like be able to put through the growing pains of like trying to aspire to be something, you know, it's like doing something that is otherwise uncomfortable and or too much. It's making it worth it. It's making it, like, if anything, feed me more. Like, I want to, I can handle more because I have this deep desire, this burning, whatever you want to call it. But we got it up to the house. We went to see it because I seen it all online. I seen a bunch of pictures. We got to there, and it was funny because there's always certain things that like shift a little bit, and it kind of, to me, gave me like a quick taste of what I think is like the problem with attaining your ambition is, it doesn't necessarily make the yield worth it. You know, that's always the problem, is like when you get your goal, it feels hollow, and sometimes it feels like it doesn't live up to the hype that you gave it, which you gave the blood to get to it, I guess, if that makes any sense. So when I got there, the house was like nice and compacted, or like it was like a barn, but it looked bigger. Like, I feel like those fuckers use a lens that makes everything look giant, like a fisheye lens, which probably is useful, but it does make everything look kind of big. So where you're sitting there like, that's fucking huge, and then you roll up and you're like, it's okay. It's not that big. But I will say, as much as it didn't ruin this for me, by the way. As soon as we got in to the house, it was everything I wanted. And it was really cool, actually, because I think you have it was a great example, and I wish I could show it to you guys at this point. But it was a great example of a place that didn't have a lot. Like again, like, basically a place that had like made the best use of its space. So like, you think like when you see all these big ass houses that are like, I mean, I get it, it's like a railing and it feeds into the living room, sure, but this house had like, just the layout of everything was just fucking dynamite, baby. It was just a brilliant. You walk through the door, you had you'd have like an office to the left with a big ass window. You had like a dryer kind of utility room to the right. Also like a boot room, I guess, like a storage room. And then you'd go straight down, and there'd be like another tiny room here, which would be underneath a stairwell, which led up to the second story. But underneath that stairwell, they repurposed and made a little kid's hideout room. Kind of like a Harry Potter hideout room, essentially. So there was a room, and then within that room, underneath the stairs, there was like a little hideout for kids. Not like a fucking hiding people, but like, you know, a little hideout for the kids. And it looked awesome. It was just beautiful. And then the outside part, as soon as you turn into to the right, you see like this kitchen with this open space. But the thing that made it like fucking next level, dude, is when you walk past kind of the entry-ish point, you're opened up to the living room, and the living room is, because it's a barn, it's basically like cut a barn in half, and the openness of a fucking high ceiling barn with big ass windows, peering light, and everything's white, so fucking light is reflecting off everything. It just looks bright, and everything's like black, gray, and white, so your brain just is just like, like, it's not like fucking this, which is like right as shit, and you're like, my brain. But it was just smooth, baby. And then you go upstairs, and it's equally as like thought out. The bathrooms look fucking gorgeous. They were a little cramped. They weren't like big ass bathrooms, but everything in it, there was like cool design things. There was like a wall that looked like variability of like planks essentially in a really like clean way. Yeah, I don't know, man. To me, everything in the house looked like it had intent, and it just changed my whole perception of like houses, because I always like people who talk about houses, which is like, how much rooms does it have, how much square feet is it, how many acres, and I'm always just like, it just feels like meaningless space. But then this was the house that made me feel like, oh no, this made it feel like art, like the way people made everything flow together was like fucking brilliant. And yeah, man, it's much as, like, to me, I will say the one thing that was surprising is it did seem a little small, because of the camera. Probably made it seem like way bigger. But man, I don't know. Also, Fluff, is it your birthday yet? If it is, happy late birthday, or happy up and coming birthday. I know your birthday, you said it was soon. I wonder if it is like now almost. Also, Fluff says, I'm a bit late. I was just talking to myself, vibing. Talking Fluff. My merch and Valorant took longer to finish than I planned. Ooh, you got some merch? Oh, an event. So you're doing the Valorant event? Oh, sorry, match. I was about to say match. I read merch. So you're doing a Valorant match? Gotcha. You can grind that Valorant. It's an August 2nd. Oh, so it's actually getting a little bit close here. Yeah. Holy shit. Huge, Fluff. Fluff, are we streaming that day? I better not forget. That'd be a fucked up thing to do. Fluff says, Sana's graduation stream started at the same time as this stream, so I may be a bit split on attending. No, it's okay. Absolutely, Fluff. If you just want to go check out that stream, I understand, buddy. You don't have to be here all the time, although I appreciate you. I know you're a big fan, so absolutely go nuts. But yeah, I'll just continue hanging out with me talking about whimsical nonsense. But anyways, to finish my kind of story, because I do upload this as a VOD, so maybe there's like 2 people that are like, okay, I'll listen to GRINN nonsense. What do you call it? So we ended up looking at this house, and it was great. It had like this barn kind of repurposed, modernized look, which I thought was cool. Didn't have any like barn pallets. It had like barn doors on a couple of cupboards, but other than that, it was pretty amazing. But anyways, you go outside and you have like this huge open area. As again, far too much land. It's like one of those things where it's like having an acreage with this much is just a nuisance. Just too much. Like I like space, but like you can get like comfort in just having trees around you and like being isolated from all the bullshit. You know, this one just had like, you have so much distance and you have so much yard and grass to cut that it was just a lot. But they also had like this fucking badass workshop that looked like pretty damn still sturdy and still functioning. And yeah, man, it was interesting because I was kind of worried like halfway when we approached the house, because this whole thing, just to catch people up who are just here, I'm talking to the idea of like having motivation, having a thing that you actually were like, holy shit, this is actually making me be like, oh, maybe it is worth, you know, suffering in the way that I kind of have been. Or I say suffering, it's far too grand of a word, but like, this is worth the discomfort. This is worth the just the feeling of being drained. This is worth something. Like, this has a means, a purpose, a thing, a reason. So anyways, I was worried that when I approached the house, I seen that it was smaller and all that stuff, and when I left it, and I was also doing like reacting or like walking through it with family, and it's interesting, man. On the topic of that, I think it's because the house was like very out of any one of my family members' price range. It was just, we were just going there to look essentially. But I think people, and I've seen this in Genshin a lot, where people basically convince themselves, they'll try to diminish something that they know they are in some ways incapable of being able to attain, to make themselves feel better about the fact that they can't obtain that thing, or that they don't want to be tempted to get that thing right now. It's not safe to get that thing, so they'll start to diminish it within their head. It says you're streaming on YouTube. It shouldn't, Ashley. Let me see. But that might be what you're seeing. Yeah, Ashley, it might be that I accidentally hit stream on both platforms on the end of the stream, so I could see it like accidentally going through a little bit and being like, hey, this is on, we're on like this, and then it being weird. But it shouldn't be that. Or in my like intro, did I say that I was actually streaming on YouTube? Not Twitch. I meant Twitch. That's what I meant. But yeah, some people probably got a notification that kind of died. It was why. It's because I accidentally started both and I was like, nope, and then I killed it immediately. Also, Lone City has returned. Love to see it. Thank you so much, buddy, for popping in. How was your work day? Also, what's good, Ashley? Richie says, iced coffee, and it is so delicious. It's absolutely delicious. I asked this to you guys at the very beginning, but not too many people were here. Is there anything physical that would motivate you guys? You can't, no relationship stuff, because I know that's kind of where most people kind of go, especially like the age bracket of my audience probably goes more to like having a person that would love me or something. But I'm talking about like a physical object that would be worth you genuinely suffering for. And by suffering, I don't mean suffering. I just mean being in discomfort, and or like, it's kind of the idea of like med school people have to go through so much goddamn schooling and like such arduous study stuff, such weird training, etc. And their boon is getting paid really well, but is it worth it necessarily to do all that? And most medical professionals, I think, have a deep love for like actually wanting to heal somebody, or actually wanting to do that for somebody. There's levels, of course, to this shit, which probably plays a part, but that's what I kind of mean. Something that would be worth you being motivated to experience discomfort for a yield, essentially. What would that be for you guys? Because, yeah, I'm curious if people have that understanding. For me, I've encountered it in the first time in my entire life recently, and I just talked about this house I checked out. You mean like a material goal or a life career? No, I mean a material goal. So for instance, my example was, for the longest time, I've always seen people aspire to get like fast cars, which is totally okay for your thing. In fact, the other thing was a big ass house. And to me, I've always thought, like, I've seen a big-ass house when I just have... PewDiePie reviews a lot of houses, like YouTuber homes. And to me, I always feel like I agree with him, which is basically it all feels meaningless. It all feels like you have a big-ass room that serves no function, and everything just does not feel cohesive to actually having a wonderful space to exist in. It all just feels like people, like, trying to give you, like, square footage because people think that's what people want. And recently... I've always thought, like, I don't know how people would ever spend that much money on a house or all these things. And I recently seen one that it was beautiful. It was like, had so much intent. It wasn't big. It wasn't like extremely huge. It was big. It was not big. It was an acreage basically. It had a bunch of land, decent house, 2 stories. Had a big ass garage, stuff like that. So it was definitely a pricier house. But it was the first house I've seen in a while that every single thing had intent with where it was. And I was like, holy shit. To live in a house like this would be, it wasn't like a mansion. It wasn't like a giant square footage. It was just the way the house fed perfectly into itself. It was like a barn that was repurposed, had heated floors, and the way like the living room had such high ceilings because it was basically like a barn cut in half, and it was just super. It was painted white and had black highlights, had like nice modern look to it, but it was kind of cool because like modern in a older style house, but because it was a barn, it also made the house shape weird. And like there were so many cool things. Like for instance, there was a kid room which had like a little tiny door, like a little dobby hole, where like it led into like a little Harry Potter nook underneath the stairs, but it had like a carpeted ceiling and like a fun little space for kids to be. And of course, it's a family home, this house. But it was just like, it gave me an entirely new, like, oh my god, this is something that I would, if one day I could work hard enough to like, or suffer hard enough to be able to earn something like this, that would be something that would genuinely be worth a shit ton of money. And worth suffering in some ways to understand how to make money and to do that loop and system and to then be able to pay for it, which I've never felt looking at a house. I never thought, yeah, like going through this much, grindy frustration, dedicating day after day, like slicing off years of your life for anything, to me always felt very weird. And I talked about this at the beginning of the stream too, but I feel like I've always come from a place of like, need not of the world, and you'll be content with anything. You'll be kind of content with just normalcy. You won't need everything because you'll be happy with the little that you have. But this is the first time where it was like it actually went against that, and I've always felt that way, and almost nothing has ever been able to jeopardize that. But in this moment, I was like, this is worth suffering for, And it again, I wish I could show you guys the house a little bit, but it was something different, And again, it's funny because it also didn't speak to my whole family in the same way. They liked it, but they thought, it's too long to drive out here, and all these things. But to me, it was genuinely like gorgeous. Like, yeah, I maybe it's just because I think people look at houses like with an investment in mind, like, oh, well, this will sell really high in the future. And to me, I was like, I don't know how. I mean, I don't care if it sells high. This would be like your home. This would be your space. This space that is just gorgeous and like content. Like, yeah. And I might be. I said this as well. I might be a basic bitch. I like the whole like white wall, like white, gray, and black highlights of an environment. Maybe some like grain kind of wheat grain kind of like stylization, just a little bit different color. But to me, I think it's a testament. I said this as well. I think it's a testament to your brain. I think people who like crazy color and like rainbow and stuff like that have like they seek that out in the real world because their mind may be a little bit more like chill. When a person has like a fucking excessive like crazy imagination and shit, I very much value like stuff that makes me feel like there's order, like black, white, gray. Makes me feel like there's control out here because my brain feels like it's the opposite of that. Chaos a little bit, So I pushed the question to you guys: is there anything that you could think of that you've seen at some point in your life that has made you want or feel like something is worth suffering, whether that's to develop a skill for? Suffering might be too too strong of a word. Is there anything that has motivated you to trade an abundance of your time for it? Whether that's like, I want to have this car one day because when I drove in it with my dad, it was the best. This is what I'm aspiring to attain. Let me catch up on chat, by the way. Also, Fluff says, I can watch both just fine, and not like I can keep up with chat on her stream as it is. Fair. Lone Syndicate says, I've returned. How are you, Grin? I'm so decent, Lone Syndicate. Pretty good, actually. I wish I did more today, but it was kind of like a good reset day. Ashley says, dang, it BRB gonna make myself an iced coffee. Now blame you, Ashley. It's probably delicious. How do you make an iced coffee? Ashley, just heat up a normal cup of coffee, chuck some ice in it, or do you do like the whole thing with what I do, which is I take it's like a brand of iced coffee cream type stuff, and I fill it up halfway. I fill like a little bit of a vanilla bean in there. I put 1 scoop of like, it's called golden cast coffee or something like that, just instant coffee, espresso shot essentially. I put that in here, and then I fill up a little bit with water, and then I put some ice in there. I stir that bitch up, and I'm just like, ooh, this is. I just pulled my neck. It's delicious. Shit. Lone Syndicate says, work. Went by fast today. Only worked 3 hours today. Woke up at around 4 a.m. today to work on a project before going to work. Whew. Lone Syndicate, you gotta be careful, buddy. That's something that so many people, I think, make a concession on, and I don't know if that's the right call. I know so many people who do weird, like, sleep things, where they're like, they'll slice off, like, 4 hours a day, baby. 4 hours a day. And I'm like, stop it, dude. There's so much research. There's so much research about Alzheimer's attached to brain degradation, attached to sleep patterns. Like when you're in REM sleep and all these things, deep sleep, these are the things that repairs your brain from, and also helps you memorize shit. But it's mainly the fact that you're not giving your brain sufficient time to recover mentally, like genuinely repair the brain cell. Because every time you're remembering stuff, your brain's a muscle essentially, I think. So I think the same thing happens with your muscles, which is it degrades, it degrades, so that it needs to be repaired in the same way your muscles do. You know, so I understand it's okay to play with that dial, but just make sure you get that sleep in. I think Alone City gets pretty younger, so he has like that fountain of youth still. but yes, I bet habits when you're young can fuck you up in the future because you're like, I've been doing this forever, and I'm like, stop it. But how did that project go? Alone City again. Fluff says, I'd say if I had any big material goal, it'd be an optimal PC setup, meaning desk, multiple monitors, hardware. I can provide stability, high profile, high performance without the need to overclock. Essentially, a battle station that achieves most of my needs for work, hobbies, and gaming. Hell yeah, that sounds like a pretty good thing. Yeah, to me, like, I guess that makes sense. Is there anything that is more tangible is a rough word, because I think that's the problem. Is I think most people, I don't know, man. I feel like even stuff that's fucking bonkers. I feel like the monitor, like that whole setup is tangible. I think it's pretty tangible if you're careful. I don't know your income situation, but I think if you were just careful and you were pacing yourself out, granted tech keeps getting like more and more complicated, so there could be a good argument for like, no, like you're gonna need to have an income rate that is sufficient enough to get the optimal stuff and then pace yourself out over time. Also, things can ebb and flow, especially with the future that we're looking into. But I wonder if there's anything that's like something that you would want enough to change course in order to be able to attain it. Does that make sense? So like, say if you were like, I want this PC, for instance. I want a normal PC just to do it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to work at this as an intern for this job, and that's going to net me this much money. I'm going to be able to get this computer. But then maybe you see like Fluff is saying, this fucking absolute stacked battle station. So then you're like, I'm not going to be able to make enough money to be able to get that thing with my current situation. I want this enough to where I have to find out how to do that. And I'm not going to compromise myself and like sell drugs or something. Well, I'm going to figure out what that would take. And then maybe you're like, okay, I would need to get a job at this place. And then you go to that place, fail. Okay, I need to go get a job at this place. You go up, do a resume. You say, I'm willing to work for free maybe, because you hear a lot of tips because you keep trying to find a better way to succeed. So you say, I'll work for free for like a month and just prove that I can actually do the job. And then they're like, okay, we'll do that. And then they say, fine, we'll give you the job if you're able to succeed. Maybe you have to jump through more hoops, whatever. But you secure the job, and you're like, okay, in a couple months, I'll be able to buy a good bit of stuff. Also, there's ways in which I can like level up through the hierarchy of this business and get even more capital and stuff like that. So is there anything like that that makes you motivated to actually like? Because otherwise, I feel like a lot of us, and maybe I'm wrong in this way, I think a lot of you guys are content. Like, content's a wrong word. I think you guys are confident in your ability to be happy in circumstances that aren't necessarily like billionaire YouTuber, billionaire CEO that's like just trying to fill the void with capital and money. I feel like most people are like, you know what, as long as I can buy some games, I hopefully can get a companion relatively before I'm, an old man and just done. And that's all good for me. That's enough for me. I feel like a lot of people are in that state, which I think is a great state to be in, by the way. Oh yeah, so also Fluffy, I see you said something about AC. How are you doing with the heat, buddy? Fluff says, at home with a working AC would be so nice. Yeah. Well, I was actually surprised by this, man. At least my brother just got a house, which is why this whole thing has started, because he bought a house. My brother's now looking into houses, and my other brother, is looking into houses, and it's just kind of had this cascading effect. But he just got this house. It's really old. It doesn't have an AC, and I was like, man, how much that people were making that sound like it was like, oh my god, it's gonna be like, you don't even know. And then I found out it was like it's like about $6,000, which is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's like, but also it's like maybe it's my dumb head, but it's also like it's not an unrealistic amount of like. And most people's first car was give or take like $3,000, and then or maybe if you're even more, maybe like $8,000. Mine was $10,000. Unfortunately, I was saving for a long time ever since I was like a teenager. But anyways, but yeah. So for me, I was like, oh, okay. Now again, it doesn't mean like people can't just drop that and get an AC, but it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, but also he might have a special situation where like people need different ACs based on the houses that they have and the infrastructure that they have, and maybe only certain stuff can work. That's all fair. That's all 100% it could make sense. I'm only working with my limited pool of knowledge. Fluff says, I've been renting this place for about 20 years or so. Golly. 2/3 of my life has been here, but it's way far from ideal. Yeah. Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Fluff says, I never really had a huge long-term goal. I tend to settle with what I can afford, which hasn't been much. I just want things that last a long time and provide the function I need / Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's huge to me. That's why I love the whole kettlebell thing, man. That's one of the biggest arguments for why kettlebell and mace and slam ball, mostly kettlebell and mace, because it's just like you could have a house fire, you could have you could like slam this thing into like concrete or other steel and it would not break because it's literally like a cannonball. It's literally like a steel cannonball, so it would be good forever. You know, it will outlive you. You know, granted you don't let it get entirely devoured by rust, and even then probably will still outlive you. So I'm a big fan of that stuff too, where it's just like this does the function, it kills it, perfect. Although I will say one thing that I did when I seen that house, I was like, damn, that's a beautiful house. But at the same time in my head, I thought a part of me would like to have a house that you could make your mark on. You know what I mean? That was like okay, it was good, but with your weird over time giving a shit, caring, you would add stuff and tweak stuff enough to where you would make your house like more unique, you know, based on your specific tastes and ideals. But yeah. Lone Singer says, no worries, Grin. I ended up going to bed at a bit early. Okay, that's good. So you still got your Z's last night, and was supposed to work on it last night, and woke up at 4 a.m. I normally wake up at 6. That's still a lot. Still early as fuck, man. Woof. When do you go to sleep, Lone Syndicate? Do you go to sleep at like 10 p.m.? I hope you go to sleep at 10 p.m. then. Still not great. Still not a lot of time. I was supposed to work at last night and woke up at 4 a.m. Normally woke up at 6 a.m. So I was late already. So I was like, all right, I'm up. So I'll make up for the time I worked on the project a bit. Yes, you know what I'm saying? I hear that same shit from my parents where they're like, well, I'm up, and I'm like, no the fuck you're not. Still lay down. Like, it just, to me, it's just like, fuck it. And it's like, no, man, usually if I don't have people who can do that, man, I don't know what it is, but when I find it ungodly hard to go to sleep. I'm so jealous always of people who can just go. I get better at it. I have like a regimen that conditions me to be back to okay, but I'm bad right now with my sleep. But what do you call it? Simultaneously, I always find it when I'm sleeping, I find it so hard to get back up. I'm awake, like I'm a light sleeper, which sucks. So as soon as my alarm goes off, I'm just like, I'm hovering over my thing, like, do it, bitch, do it. And then I stop and I take my pill because I have a thyroid thing. I take my pill, and then my body's like, but I could go back to sleep now. And it's like there's a war going on in my fucking mind of like, you can do it. You can just turn off, buddy. Just go down. It's like someone's like smothering you. The paddle like, stop it, go back to sleep. And I think it's also because I have such a horrible sleep. Do you guys think getting a mattress would make any dent in like having a functional sleep? Because I basically sleep on like an old ass pad. It's like an old ass mattress. And yeah. Fluff says, comparatively, my current PC is a decent laptop. I sit up on my bed. It's very improvised to work for me. I may not be a big goal to others, but it would be a major upgrade that would hopefully last a lot. Last longer than the average. Yeah. No, that again. Yeah, it's all different based on circumstance and whatnot, for sure. But yeah, no, definitely based on circumstance. Yeah, no, I'm very much in a place of, I'm very privileged in that state. But I also have like the amazing. Again, I can't stress enough how I'm both incredibly grateful and also. Yeah, no, I'm just incredibly grateful that I still basically I live with my parents. So if there was an option for me, I would try to take it. But that's good motivation too, because there's a lot of weirdness that comes with living with your parents. That is also kind of like it would be good to succeed. So I'm gonna keep working. You know what I mean? But eventually, again, like I think you get comfortable with like, if people had a problem with that, then fuck them. You know, I'm not gonna stress about this all day, every day. You know. That's more of an inside baseball with me a little bit, but yeah. I think it's a wonderful goal, Fluff. Fluff says second to last day of exercising heat, or excessive heat. I haven't felt that bad today, despite it supposedly being 100s today and tomorrow. Woof. Golly. Lone Stinker says, and GRINN, this is a different project, not the art project I talked to you. I was about to say, is this the one that you got like, you had 300 ideas for? Woof. This project has me making a business plan if I was starting my own business. Okay. That's fucking huge, Lone Syndicate. God damn. That's a really interesting thing. I'm curious how this plans out, buddy. Fluff says our AC needs cleaning. It turns on and runs, but it's been something. But it has been something that has been needing to be done years ago, and sadly they haven't sent any people to work on it. Oh, shitty. Oh, that's okay. Yeah. So yeah, you said you rent. So you have a caretaker kind of thing, or not caretaker. What is it called? Like a housing person that's supposed to make sure everything's running. There's shit in the bed. That's not good. Fluff says, and they're probably like, yeah, but we'll get a guy out there, but the heat's gonna die down again, so don't be too stressed. Survive. It's like, fuck you. We've had animals making nests in the heat vents behind the built-in microwave, which thankfully has been solved, but chances are there's been debris or nests, blockages in the AC vents that have made it super ineffective. Yeah, that's brutal. Yeah, a bunch of fucking twigs and shit now. Yee. Yeah, I was gonna say you don't want to fire, but that would be it's AC. It would probably be fine. Fluff says, I have difficulty staying asleep, so I often stay in bed longer than I should. Just the other day, part of why I was absent from the stream on Thursday was when I have been up all night in my bed by noon, and then stayed in my bed till 5 a.m. Friday. Fuck, dude, that's brutal. That's gnarly. Eesh. Was it just a heat, Fluff, or was that just sometimes your just sleep is just in a weird go? But what's good, Stitch? This is Logan Dogan. That's good, Stitch. Jesus. Zero says Lazy Data's spell build was a genius build. I haven't seen that one yet. Zero. What was it all about? I think I'm not sure if I've seen that person yet. Lazy Data. I think I've heard you talk to me about him. How was it? Fluff says, yeah, the current peak is 100F today. Thankfully tomorrow. Gunless, not genius. Oh, I see. Oh, so he made a gunless build? God damn. How did he reset the cooldown perfectly like that? Did he not even use, he has to use TD or something like that, right? Or is it just none of that? Weird. But also awesome. Good for him. That's crazy. Seems to lower the forecast and things starting to cool down. Monday onward should be decent. Yeah, hopefully. That'll be a nice birthday present. Stitch says, Logan, do you watch / keep up with Star Wars or the MCU? Here's the thing, Stitch. Here's the thing. I want to. And I was at the beginning. I was at the fucking baseline, baby. I was begging my mom to take me to Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. because I thought, fucking dope. Okay, we went to see it. It was a banger. My mom, who never likes anything like that, any sort of superhero, whatever, was like, I'm into it. I thought it was a great movie. I was like, great. And then I was riding the bandwagon all the time until the first Avengers. I watched that one, but then the one that came after, I stopped watching. And I think it was because I hadn't watched, so those fucking movies, because the Avengers, the MCU, is chronologically kind of paced out, that in itself makes me not want to watch the second if, say, life like kicks my ass and I'm just like not able to watch, which is what happened. I wasn't able to watch Ultron, whatever the hell it was called, Age of Ultron. I was not able to watch that one. So then I was like, okay, well, I can't watch all these other ones because I have to watch Ultron first. But I just kept forgetting to watch Ultron, Avengers Age of Ultron, whatever it's called. So then I kept putting it off, and then eventually I was just so deep where like it got so ahead of me that I had like fucking 8 hours. I had Ant-Man, I had Ant-Man 2, I had the fucking Spider-Man Homecoming, I had all these things. I had so much ahead of me that I was just like, and eventually I just said, fuck it, I'm just gonna watch whatever I can watch, and I'm gonna enjoy whatever the things I don't understand. So if there's things I don't understand, I'll be like, whatever, cute. Then I'll move past. And then I seen the what is it called? The one with Captain America versus Iron Man in this like political debate, something war. I watched that, enjoyed it. I enjoy the movies, Stitch. I just don't have time to necessarily watch them. I love the fandoms. I find I'm the kind of person that is the person who enjoys most movies and film. The only film I really hated in recent memory was a film called Ghost Rider 2. And I love Ghost Rider 1. I just fucking despise Ghost Rider 2. It just completely shit the bed. But no, I haven't watched Star Wars. Are you keeping up with that, Stitch? I recently in the book that I'm reading, it's funny, he's like a big Star Wars fan, the guy that wrote the book, the course I'm taking. He's a big Star Wars fan, and he kind of was trying to describe how important it is for you to like resonate with your audience essentially and like hit the mark. And he was using a description of like basically the guy that wrote the book would watch the Star Wars movies like 1,000 times. Like literally said, I'd watch the main Star Wars movies 1,000 times. I'd watch the prequels 1,000 times as well. And then I've only watched the last 3 Star Wars movies twice. He's what he said. And it was kind of one of those moments where he was trying to describe, well, what was it about those 3 movies that made me, as a fucking diehard fan, disconnect? And he described it himself. He basically said that, like, they weren't making the movie for their core audience anymore. They were making it for the next generation of big people, but you still need to do justice to your core audience. Like, one of the things is he said that they kind of made Obi-Wan Kenobi weak. Not Obi-Wan, sorry, Luke Skywalker. They made Luke Skywalker kind of feel weak. And the whole series is about how he's like fucking actually pretty good and pretty strong. So he had a frustration with that whole thing. And he was just basically said that like they didn't take care of their core audience. And they did stuff where like they weren't making a product for their audience that they fostered. They were making a story that they wanted to hear. So they wanted to like, here's all this crazy stuff, all the lore, fuck all that lore. Here's the story I want to say. And this was the issue, what people said, which I kind of feel like, to me, I felt like there were aspects of the last 3 Star Wars movies which I watched all of them. I watched all the Star Wars movies. I like space magic. What do you want from me? I also like superheroes, but I found, for whatever reason, those ones fit in. I think it's because of such huge times in between them. But what do you call it? That like the best example to me of like them writing a story that to me felt like they were writing it for them and not the audience was the Kylo Ren and Rey kiss, where like it just did not feel like this was conducive to the lore, the story, the like setup even. It felt wildly forced and like as if someone was like, you know what, for shock value, here's the part of it. And it's like, your audience isn't gonna like that. No, this is not like a Leia and whatever kind of. The people didn't like that. The first one, like, what? It was weird. But anyways, the whole chapter is basically him trying to talk about resonating with your audience and knowing how to like the importance of listening to feedback from your audience and like realizing, oh, the main group that I made content for, that is the base that gave me like my reach, essentially, that like pushed my videos to other people, they're not happy. Are they rightfully unhappy, and is there a way I can optimize so that they are happy and we still extend our reach? And usually there is. Probably difficult, but it's certainly better than pissing off the foundation that you built for your company, your business, your creation set, which is your channel, you know? Also, I want to talk to you guys about how do you think I should approach one of the assignments I have within my book. I want to get back to that. Zero says the laser hand spell has an insane low cooldown. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. I seen those, Zero. I seen those builds. As much as I love the laser hand and it's super good, I find it like it's not as satisfying. Well, it's satisfying, but I don't know. I feel like it's just like. Whereas like the like the flamethrower, you're like. And you're just seeing like explosion. Well, you're seeing like the flamethrower tickle them and then just go pop, because I think the blast gas detonates and it's just a mess. It just splatters them everywhere. Bah, bah. And that feels so good. Also, when you're like summoning hydras and you're seeing a lot of like tons of these little tiny heat-seeking death orbs that your things are just spitting. Oh man, that would be a great build for the name of the build, by the way. Something to do with like our little tiny hydras spitting on trash. Like just, disgust me. Disgust me. Oh, I regret not naming it like die trash. So YouTube might not like that, but you know, would have been good. Even just a joke, just a little jab. Hindsight 2020. Fluff says if it was a simple matter, it'd be fun to watch streams for movies like that. Yeah. I feel like it would be pretty simple, honestly. I don't think it'd be that bad. I see a lot of people. Well, there's something like that where basically I would black out the screen, give you like a little tiny thread of it to where it's basically non-understandable, and then I give you a time code basically what you're watching. That would be kind of cool. But I don't know. I finally would want to enjoy them. Like, I wouldn't mind reacting to them with you guys, but I'd also like to enjoy it the first time, because I feel like it's hard to like just sit back and like appreciate something whilst trying to make people laugh and have a fun time, you know? I think it'd be fun if you had two people. That way, like, you could basically have a fun time, like kind of mystery science theater. What's good, Nanny? Nanny says, hi, Grin. What's good, Nanny? How are you this fine evening? Hopefully you're taking care of yourself in the meantime. Also, Nanny's been grinding with that art, man. Just fucking grind. Dang. Fluff says, Phase 1 to 3 MCU is worth watching, at least, but Phase 4 hasn't been great. The Disney Star Wars is horrid. Really? Fluff? I thought I heard nothing but... So I heard people shit all over... Like, this was the thing that happened in the book. So I should have finished my train of thought. Thank you for saying that, Fluff. So he gave the example of, like, Star Wars 3... the last 3 Star Wars movies. The ones with Rey. He gave an example of them, like, completely missing the mark. Like, them not knowing their audience and or their love group is what he calls them. And, like, the group of the diehard fans that you foster over the years, when you're not satisfying them, there's a problem. You've deviated to such an extent in which you're alienating a huge base of your audience that is the whole point of people who really like what you create. That kind of whole thing. Anyways, so he basically gave the example of the directors that made the last 3 movies were kind of making a movie for them, or making the movies for them, not for their core audience. And then he mentioned the guy who made the first Iron Man movie and maybe the second one, but he really understands like communities, like fandoms. Sorry, he really understands fandoms and what the fandom like makes them excited, makes them like freak out. So he was helmed with making The Mandalorian. And that, for a lot of people, was a complete turnaround. After, like, the biggest failure of, like, Star Wars, everyone hated the fucking trilogy, the last 3, they shit all over them, they just fucking despised them. This came out, and shockingly, people were like, no, this is it. This is really it. Like, this is really good, actually. And then The Mandalorian, what do you call it, Kenobi? People also said Kenobi was actually pretty good, too. And again, the whole reason was the guy gave a reason for, like, well, this guy knew what people wanted. You know, like, one of the things was in the Mandalorian season 2, the ending episode for a lot of people did a lot. It was an Easter egg that made people excited, happy, and like it charmed them. It made them like excited to be a Star Wars fan again. to see a character that they know that it was done properly, all these things. So he gave those examples of like, this is what you can do, and you can fuck up. You make a story for you and only you. Here's a story. Here's like an example of making something cool, but also something for another person, for the audience that you fostered, which I thought was a great example. But yeah. Fluff says Star Wars was science fantasy, which is true. So one thing I liked more over something like Star Trek. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, Star Trek to me is a little bit too like politics stuff. You know what I mean? Like, also they look less cool to me. You know what I mean? Like Star Wars is always like, what's the cool aspect about aliens? You know, you got like fucking chunky monkey squid tentacle nonsense. You got Jar Jar. It's probably a bad example, but you got this like charming freak shit, which is awesome. Star Trek to me was always like, oh no, these people look scary. These people look kind of terrifying to me. It's like uncanny valley situation where Star Wars always did a good job about like, I don't know what they are, but there's some part of me that thinks they're kind of cute. And I don't know if there's any part of me that ever felt that in Star Trek, you know what I mean? Also, Fluff says, similar reason to why I like Shadowrun over Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is pretty cool, but Shadowrun has that all the magic is quite the sugar on top. Stitch says, I just finished Obi-Wan Kenobi show yesterday. Very much enjoyed the finale. It really hit me emotionally, but it probably wouldn't have unless I had seen the original. Prequels, Clone Wars, Rebels, and such felt like a very nice payoff. Yeah, see that those were other ones. So that was one of the things that pissed people off as well. Is in the original 3 movies, it's like the guy basically goes through like a bunch of examples of like what not to do, and he's like, if you ever like creating content that cannibalizes or like destroys previous content that you've made. So say if you like value up a character, you take a random story, you build up this character over time. They're like God. They're like at the end of the story, they're like fucking an animal. And then you do like a reboot, and the designers think it's a good idea to pull in that like God level character, and because they're trying to set up the villain, they let that character die in like a kind of a stupid way. And they're like, but see how strong he is? He killed the old guy. And it's like, no. People are just going to be pissed that, like, this is the way the story ended. Like, it didn't end that way. It ended this way. The guy got older, a couple years, died. What a fucking shitty thing. You're like, no. Make it 5 years in the future. Do Easter eggs that make people feel excited. Take that guy who is like a god, or maybe he like didn't actually make it a god, but make it like there's a weird cult that like worships him because what he did was actually godlike. He took on like an entire fucking empire or something. You know, like that. That is something that you could do, like, oh my god, yeah, it's awesome that people like are looking up to him like a fucking benevolent figure, you know, like that's something that would make people feel happy and excited and feel like that's kind of cool. An Easter egg, essentially, a good Easter egg, I should say. So to me that was one of the examples he gave, which kind of made everything feel pretty on point. Alone Singing says, honestly, when I was given the project, it automatically made me remember something you said a while ago. Something along the line of, if you have an idea, you need to also kill that idea. I don't remember exactly what you said. Yeah, it's from the book with winning and not with winning mind. I always say that. Disrupt You, that's what it's called. So basically, Lone Syndicate, it's a whole process. It's a really clever thing to think about. But basically, the guy basically plots it out like this. If you're going to make a business, or if you're going to have an idea, you basically look at it like you have many roads to succeed and to go on. But there's those various roads have a lot of roadkill. So you need to determine all of the ways in which that road could kill you, that it could fail. So an easier way to think about it is literally you take an idea and then you find all of the ways that you could fail, and then you pick the one that could fail the least. And then you try to optimize for the ways in which you could fail to not fail. So you're basically accounting for like the failure of your product. You're trying to kill it. You're not trying to like baby it and be like, well, hopefully nothing goes wrong, because sure as shit something will go wrong. So the whole idea is to take your premise, whatever it's like, I'm trying to sell something, I'm trying to create a video. When, like, you need to think about the variables that will interact with your product. So if I make a video, or if you're making a business, you'll need to consider the ways in which things will affect your business, your environment, and the ways in which it will kill your environment. and you need to start to kill it. You need to start to try to fucking break that thing down, destroy it immediately. Now the goal is to never like destroy your ability to feel like you have made something that you can back. That's careful. Be careful with that, because you don't want to destroy yourself. You want to mention a problem, mention a piece of roadkill in your way, and then find a way to mend it. Find a way that you would avoid that outcome, and then keep going. And don't ever just go like, I failed because of this reason, I failed because of that reason, I failed because of this reason, because you'll just destroy yourself. You'll feel like super diminished. You want to, I'll fail because this is something that I could fail at. This is what I could do to like solve it. You're ending on a note of like hopefulness, of like, okay, I have a thing that I could do that would make me succeed in this one outcome. Go down again. Do that same thing. And you just repeat that over and over and over again. But like for me, understanding how you fail is like, when I'm making a video, there's something called engagement, and the reason why that metric is important is because it's basically accounting for when people get bored. So when people start to tune out, that's when you need to pay attention, because right around that time when they start to tune out, that's when you need to like re-engage them, basically. Give them something fun to chew on, like show them something interesting, make a premise, format your video in a way that in which you're talking to a person and kind of creating a story arc so they feel like they're feeling invested. So that's a way that I can minimize my failure rate. And that's kind of the whole idea, is that you need to kill your idea or kill your business or kill your whatever. You're not, people have this ability to kind of be like, I have to make it safe, and it's like you need to understand all the ways in which you fail so that you can account for them. But be careful not to get consumed by the fact that you're going to constantly be chewing through failure, because that can be destroying mentally. It can make you feel like none of these roads are even good enough for me to pursue, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to destroy your what is it called? Motivation, maybe your motivation to feel like you can do it. You have to account for the failure rate, essentially, which I thought was very helpful. Again, it makes you, but the whole important of it is not like you're shitting on yourself. The whole important part of it is accounting for failure so that you don't fail, and giving yourself a solution to solve for. But yeah, but I love that you remember that, Lone Stick. That's crazy that you remember the random shit I say so much. Fluff says, imagine a game like Cyberpunk, but magic and fantasy races are reawakened to a future modern world. The humans of Earth have lingering of orc, elves, dwarves, trolls. That's awesome. Kind of sounds like that Netflix movie called something that was not so great. And then magic returns. They transform. The world has a Shadowrun. Has wizards and shamans, but also Decker hackers and riggers engineers. Pretty cool. Okay, that sounds dope as hell. Fluff says the Mandalorian is one of the positive examples. Yeah, but that was the example of the guy that gave, which is like this director knew how to understand their audience and like pay homage in a fun way. Fluff says, but I was specifically referring to the new trilogy. Yeah. It should have never been the case that their director had to work so hard just to regain the fan base that they burned. Yeah. I agree, yeah. Fluff says, but with how everything else was treated, scrapping most of the expanded universe. Yeah. That was one of the things he said too, is like, again, it's the exact thing. Like, you build up all of this fun lore, and you just kill all of it. And people are like, but like, you can't, like, it's not, you realize you just destroyed your fan base. Like, your fan base is pissed. And then, now if you would have come out with like some sort of like, here's tons of lore and fun things and fun ways to implement. No, you basically just had like a really weird, samey story. Like, it was really weird. It's like a reboot, but the identical story almost. But I was specifically Fluff says, but with how everything was treated, scrapped most of the expanded universe and ignored it entirely. Source material, references material. Yeah. You mean like how they unceremoniously killed a kill of Joel in The Last of Us 2? Exactly. It's a great way to put it. Yeah, exactly. It's a great way to like feel like you're making a story for you and not a story for the fans that backed you. Because like, this is the thing that pisses me off so much about art. And I used to be, the reason why it makes me so mad is because I used to be super ignorant about what it means to create. Like, you can create, anyone can create anything, but the only reason why you create and show it to someone is because you want a positive response or a response to them, from them, sorry. And maybe you want like shock and awe, sure. But if you're honest with that's your outcome, then you can tell when you're not doing that. So like at least you're honest with like not, again, you're finding the ways in which you're, oh, I'm failing because this is my objective. I didn't get that. I failed. Let me adjust. But I think with that's like the biggest problem with art is people have a tendency to make stuff that they want without also making something that somebody else wants. And this is one of the things that I like about the course I'm taking a lot is you have to find the crossroads. You can't just make what other people want because you'll be a shell. You'll feel unmotivated. You'll get burnt out. So you need to make something that is the crossroads between something that you're passionate about and something that you can make interesting to other people. That's how you succeed and you make something properly. And the same thing with storytelling. You need to not just make a story that you want to be told, but your fan base wants to hear and will enjoy. The core of your fan base, because again, the core of your fan base will always move the content around. It'll one of the reasons why the Star Wars series is so beloved is because it resonated with a specific group of hardcore people, and that became like posters on your wall that your friend would come over and be like, "You haven't fucking seen this," and it would pop off in that way. But yeah. Not the most flattering comparison, but yeah, sort of like Brian. Right. Also, I didn't finish reading the thing like Last of Us 2 or Snoke in the movie. All of this build up to just snuff it out because the new director or writer didn't like the character or what they previously set up for. Yeah, man. You know, Fluff, I'm not sure if you know this. Probably not. It's kind of far too deep of a cut. It's specific to my interests. I love monster movies. I really enjoyed the series Teen Wolf. Fight me, it's okay. All right, everyone likes some trash every now and again. All right, it was fun. But they had this thing set up with Styles where like they finished it. They had a pretty interesting premise. It's just like side character based. It's probably like more people like the main character Styles in Teen Wolf than the main guy, which is hilarious because the dude has just so much character. He's the same actor from Maze Runner, same guy. Anyways, dude just like breathes charisma and like weirdness and like charm. Anyways, they gave him like this really one of the directors, like the show was definitely passed around to like 5 directors who were like, I want to tie this up, and then people were like, no, you'll tie it up at the end. So the guy who made season 1 and 2, I think, eventually got his hands on like the ending season. But the guy who like took care of like the other 3 seasons did like a pretty good job at taking what the other guy built up and like moving forward with it and like building atop it to where like the series ended with like Styles, which is like most people's favorite character, having like this badass werewolf transformation fox who was like super brash, super renegade like shit, and Styles is like a wimp. He's like a scared but brave but weird dude. So it was just like a little dainty man with like this fucking alpha chick, and it was such fun contrast because they kind of like completed each other in a weird way. And then again, that like the last season comes, and they're like, yeah, so she just says, nah, I'm over it, and then just like fucks off for no reason, even though he went through so much shit in the whole series, and then he ends up being with a girl that like they kind of hinted at the end. It pissed me off. I was peeved. I was like, what a shit way to end this bullshit. And also, at the end of those last couple seasons, painful to watch. The last 2 seasons, disgusting. Very horrible. They're making like a movie, and it looks like a fucking shitty fan-made trailer. It's terrible. Woof. And of course the Maze Runner guy, the main like charisma actor guy, he's like, I don't want to do it. So you don't see him anywhere. And again, he's such a like integral part of that whole thing that you're like, what the fuck is happening, my guy? You know? Jeez. Anyway. Fluff says, honestly, had he directed the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, that could have been amazing. Yeah, no, I agree. Could have been amazing. Tangent, Santa got a big farewell letter signed. Art from the other HoloLive members, followed by multiple cover songs performed by the EN girls in this small 3D avatar. Oh, it's so cute. That sounds like such a terrible bait. It's such a terrible bait and switch, Fluff. It was so bad. It was such a cool thing too. Also, I'm not sure if Stitch is still here. I'm not sure if Lone Cynic is still here. If you guys are, I wanted to ask you guys something. These are my, also Fluff is here. You guys are my like hive mind that I chuck shit down, and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about this. I need your input. I need your input. So, I was gonna say, one of the things, I should maybe go use the washroom before I do this. I'm gonna go use the washroom before I do this. This is gonna be a lot. All right. Okay. Quick summary of my book. Chapter. Okay, so baseline, the chapter is called, the previous one I talked to you guys about is, actually I don't even know if I talked to you guys about the previous one. The previous one is Content is King, which basically is just like, content is what governs everything. Content could be like a good TV series, a good TikTok, a good Instagram post, a good whatever. Usually defined by like a people's interest in a thing. Like if people have a response to it, a reaction that's positive to it, etc. Feel satisfied have seen it or something. And then the whole like the course that I did for that one was basically just go find what people have what has resonated with people, and then break down what they have done in terms of a story. So what was the hook? What was the setup? What was the re-engagement tools? What was the wrap up? What was the goosh, which is like the sugar on top? It's like the little tiny ending joke. It's the cherry on top of the climax, essentially. After it starts coming down, you give them a little bit of bump, and then they feel more satisfied having experienced it. Anyways, but the one chapter I just talked about is called Content is King, and the second chapter is called Feedback is Queen. And what this is referring to is that like you adjusting to the data and feedback you're getting is incredibly valuable. This is all in regards to YouTube. But he also makes a very good distinction, which I've always appreciated, which was basically there's a distinction between, he has a quote in the book that says, not all feedback is created equal. And he means this to basically say that like if you took one person in your comment section, say you have 100 people commenting, you take one person in your comment section to determine, maybe even 5 people to determine what your whole video is. So maybe people criticize the shit out of it. If you have no idea what that person is or who that person is, you might be changing your system or you're adjusting your content for a person that is crazy, like is not even your target demographic, is like super specific, doesn't even watch these types of videos normally. So you're optimizing for someone who is not someone who you want to optimize for. It's not good. And the same thing can be said for like if you go to your parents or your friends to talk about like, is this content good? A lot of times they're just trying to be supportive, or they'll be overtly critical. They'll either be like, it's good content, or they'll be like, oh, this is kind of boring. They'll give you like they'll be critical despite not having any experience in what it means to actually create something. So both are not very good feedback metrics. Now, if what does make a good human feedback system is if somebody is your target demographic, so is like the same age bracket that you're aiming for, the same watches this kind of content a lot, is interested in the types of content that you're producing generally, then yeah, they're the person that you want to listen to, because they're the person that actually consumes what you're making. And then the last one then the second one for human feedback is of course creators. So like other people who have dabbled in YouTube creation, other streamers, any streamers less. It's more, it depends. Like you want to go get streamers if you're streaming, but if you're making YouTube content, you want someone that knows what it takes to have a good video. Now that also means you need to find someone who has succeeded and is understood how they succeeded within YouTube, or creating any videos. Anyways, so then the other feedback metric is called data. So basically, like you can look at your analytics, you can look at your watch time, you can look at your viewer duration, so how many people are tuning out and how fast. If it's super high, cut down video length or add re-engagement. All that stuff makes sense. Sorry. The question I want to pose to you guys, one of the things that it tasks you to do, which I think is incredibly valuable, but I find it's going to be tricky to do. Probably. I might be setting myself up for like talking myself down to it, which I don't want to do. So we're going to do it eventually. I don't know how it's going to happen, but yeah. One of the things that the course tasks you to do is to basically find a mastermind program. What is that? Basically, it tasks you on finding 2 other people, so 3 people in total. Maybe it could be 4 people, sure. But basically to meet every week. That's a kettlebell. That's cool. Sorry. I think basically tasks you to go find 3 other people who are also doing whatever you want to do in your niche. That could be like YouTubers that do gaming content. That doesn't have to be like YouTubers that cover FPSs, that do like this, that doesn't need to be that general. Just people who are aware of like the strategies that it takes to make like a gaming video successful, and what does that determine, right? So, and the whole point is that you come together once every week to basically share data, to like go over your like most viewed videos in that 9-day span, in a 90-day span, to break them down, to get notes on where your video might be dragging, like where the they felt bored, what they would do to make people less bored, to, you know, you're all breaking down other creators, you're kind of coming together to where, like, I tried this from this creator, which made a lot of sense to me, so I optimized for what I think it was trying to do, and it had a huge gain. You should try it here. Like that kind of, like, bouncing off of people. And the dude in the story the book has a great story where he was mentoring a kid. He asked him to go. It kind of sucks because he gave him, like, he had 3 other channels that were like under 100 subscribers or something like that. So basically, the guy who was mentoring a kid who had a less than 100 subscribers on YouTube, he told him to go to this convention to meet people and try to make a mastermind group, is what it's called, to bounce ideas off of and to grow together with. Not like collab with necessarily, but collaborate in regards to, like, growing your own separate things by understanding tools, strategies, and, like, different perspectives of how to do it, which I thought was pretty cool. But anyways, so when they did that, he said, like, he basically was like, I only have 100 subscribers. No one will want to collaborate with me. Like, nobody wants to make a mastermind class with someone who only has 100. So then the one guy, he said, okay, I have some other people I'm mentoring. I'll set you up with these 3 other channels. We'll go ask them if they're interested in doing it. One channel had 1,000 subscribers. One other channel had 5,000 subscribers. And the last channel had 15,000 subscribers. The guy said, it doesn't hurt to ask. Go ask them if they're interested. 2 of the other people were extremely interested in doing it because they were just excited to have somebody talk YouTube with and to talk about, like, the research findings and to, like, have somebody make up for what they may have been lacking. You know, somebody's really good at making thumbnails and the other person's really good about coming up with ideas for content. Huge. It's really good. And you can learn from each other, not just kind of, like, use each other for your own gain, but understand how they're being so good at this. Anyways, but the 3rd channel with 15K subscribers basically said, nah, I don't want to, you know, get into this with people who are, like, newbies, essentially. Shitty bastard. Anyway, so every week they would basically come together, they would share data. Just the things that they were doing was incredibly clever. So they would, like, you'd go through your friends, your other person's most viewed videos, you'd watch through a couple of them, you'd basically make notes on where you think their, like, re-engagement isn't very good, and then you would go through all of this other stuff. And then the other thing was, you'd break down other successful creators, and then you would, like, bring their findings with them. And I feel like I'd be so much better about, like, looking at somebody else's content, being real gentle and being like, I kind of felt like you lost me here. And maybe if we tighten that up just a little bit, I'll help you. That's my thing, as I would try to be super careful, but, like, I wouldn't want to diminish anybody, but I would want to make sure they're aware that, like, right here is where I started to tune out because it was a little long. And that kind of stuff, to me, I feel like I'd be way better. Whereas with my content, I'm like, it's not that I think I'm perfect. It's just that I think I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm too mean. I'll be like, I suck. I'm the worst. I shouldn't do this. I'm trash. I'm gonna go watch anime and cry. It's be terrible. I'm kidding, of course. But anyways, the whole point was that there is this thing for a mastermind course where you could get together and talk to people about your data, your findings, and stuff like that. But one of the things he tasks you with is finding people for this mastermind program. I don't know what to do because I have a little bit of anxiety, but also I don't know the way because I don't care about subscribers at all. I do care about somebody who is serious about genuinely learning. Like, if I encountered me, who when I first started, or like even like 5 years into when I started, I never really cared about somebody talking to me about, like, here's why it's important for your thumbnail to have this. I would have thought, I'm just trying to make good content. I'm not going to care about the thumbnail too much because I'm just trying to make something good. It turns out, like, breaking down other good people and how other skilled people execute things, it's a great way to just hugely evolve your progress. So I guess the question that I'm curious about to ask you guys, how would you go about finding people who are on the same mental page as you to want to do this, to basically mastermind with? People to basically be like, hey, I would love to meet up in Discord once a week where we share data, where we share our strategy / like breakdowns of certain characters, where we go through each other's like most successful videos of the week, and kind of highlight what we're doing really well and how we're really engaged properly, and then give ourselves ways to mend or solve for the ways in which we're not doing that. So I felt like I was bored here, or I started to tune out here. One of the things that I think you could do is, if you were doing a voiceover or something, you could do many tries at that specific part, because the beginning part of your video is where you basically foreshadow what's the value which is to come, and or the reason why people would be engaged. So to have a really strong start, I think, is worth taking the time to do it a couple times and then picking the best one. That's how I would do it, having things like that, and then to genuinely have people who are listening. My passive worry is that I'm in a place where I'm super interested in this stuff, and I would go fucking deep. I'd go deep into other people's analytics and go fucking mad, go and become be madness incarnate. But I worry that I might, and this happened before in my life quite a bit, where I always like doing things for other people more than I like doing things for myself, and then sometimes that has feedback that's pretty bad. I'll end up doing the entire assignment myself, and then I'll feel like I always feel like an asshole. Why am I working 8 times harder than I'm? Yeah. I'm a little worried that might happen, but that's why I think it's weird. It's I need to put myself in a place where I can find these people who are genuinely interested. I don't care about subscribers, I don't care about anything like that. I just care for people to genuinely participate in this idea, this thing. And again, it would really, really help if other people read the book that I read. Maybe not as hardcore as I'm reading it, which is I'm memorizing everything, but just having a sense of okay, these are the things that you should look out for. This is what you should do in some regards to go and search the most successful video in your niche, find the ways in which they're re-engaging their audience, making them stay awake. How are they making their audience feel engaged, invested in what's going to happen, aka watching more of the video? How are they how are they making an idea or a thumbnail interesting to the person enough to where they'd want to click on it and be excited to watch it, essentially? These are all the things that you would do in the course, and I think they're extremely helpful to give you a sense of what the value structure of this ecosystem, which is YouTube, is. And I think 90% of it could be applied to streams like Twitch. Go find a bunch of creators that are doing really good, find out what exactly they do and how they do it, what are their most successful ways, find out and break down what they do and what other people do. But that's good, but finding another person's perspective of that same process could be fucking dynamite, because you may miss something that other person has a crazy bunch of experience with. And also the other thing that I also appreciated about the thing was in this. I didn't tell you the ending of that thing. I should, but he basically one of the things that they do is they don't necessarily collaborate on every video. It's not like collaboration used to mean hey, do you want to appear in my video for 2 seconds and then tell people to go subscribe to the channel that they have no interest in, or that you've only sold for 5 seconds of a video. No. If I'm gonna push my audience to your content, you should appear in multiple videos, and then at the fucking end we'll push like crazy and make people see how fucking and charming and interesting you are, and go in that way. AKA optimizing for you genuinely getting turnover and success. But anyways, that's what collaborations used to mean. But now I find it so much more better. The idea of collaboration being like a weekly process of coming together, sharing data, unraveling things like that, all that. But I don't know where I would get it. So that's where I would ask you guys. Where do you think I would find people that are as interested in this kind of stuff and to succeed? How would you find that? How would you find people who are like-minded and willing to meet every week and do that? I don't know. I feel like if I went to a YouTube convention, that'd be probably pretty easy, because any fucking psychopath to go to a creator convention, probably pretty desperate and or into it. So I don't know how would you guys go about finding people for this mastermind course? Again, subscribers mean nothing to me. Viewership means nothing to me. Experience honestly means nothing to me. The only thing I would appreciate is if people did read that book, because I think it will give you a better running start for the ecosystem that is YouTube than most people. But I don't know. A part of me thought maybe I could make a YouTube video on the GRINN channel and be like, hey, I don't know if that's good either, because I don't know. Also, the one thing that I appreciate about the chapter is that it doesn't matter. You don't need to have a person who's in the mastermind course or group that you're creating. that is what is it called? That is like in the same, like you could be making like blades on YouTube. You don't need to be in my niche. It kind of helps, but ultimately I can do the same thing I could do for the other channels, which is like watch through your video, like understand when there's a point in which I find myself getting like dropping off, or I could better understand your audience. I could look at your data and be like, yeah, the watch time is low here. I think it's because people don't know what they're getting at the very beginning. And if you look at these other channels, what they do, which is really clever, is they make you buy in. They show you this like piece of like a wooden file, or sorry, like a metal file, and the thumbnail already dictated that this file is going to turn into a cool weapon. So this is you could use the same premise to make people feel interested in the idea that you're even creating this to that. And that's what I think they do, and that's why I think it works. But anyways, as a to round off the story I told, which is basically this mentor guy said, here's these 3 channels with 1,000 subscribers and 5,000 subscribers. They met every week. They shared data. They passed back and forth their things. They're like takeaway, and then within I think a year and a half or 2 years, each one of the channels had above a million subscribers, and a bunch of channel views, and the original guy who like started the whole thing had 3 other channels that I think were also really successful, and he gave I looked at it, the channel do exist. It's not just like a guy peacocking. It's genuine. But guess how much the channel that had 15k subs that didn't want in 45,000 subscribers, which I know I hate saying subscribers because it sounds kind of dirty. It sounds like I need more people to give a shit. It's not. It's just a metric that people use to govern like people having bought into you, people having resonated with your content. So I know I'm getting used to like saying that, and I feel like there's a lot of people, including me in the past, which hated hearing people talk about views and subscribers, felt icky. But now I just, it's a metric that people govern yourself by, like seeing if you're doing the right thing. Like, oh, this video is getting more successful. I'm clearly optimizing in a better, cleverer way. I'm engaging my audience, etc. But yeah, what's good, Project? Project says, that's some really good advice. Which one? Which one? Let me calcify that, whatever you said. Which bit of the advice? The content is queen, feedback is queen, or the mastermind group? Which one? Also, nobody's replied with a solution, because I feel like you guys are just like me, where you're like, Grin, I'll be honest, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know where you go about finding people who are this. I think my best bet is to maybe like spend some like a lot of hours grinding through YouTube. Most people, I don't know. I would hope it's Discord. Like, I would hope I could like find them and reach them through Discord, but I don't know. Also, it'd be a lot of like reaching out, doing research to find people, and then to be like, fuck, they're not as into it, or they're like, I don't know. I feel like you'd have to give people enough time to like be like, okay, what are we doing? This? Okay, and then maybe by you doing it for their channel, you'd be like, oh, okay, I just do the same thing for you. Okay, I get it now. So you have to slow down, people. I had to catch up with chat. Lone Syndicate says, no problem, Grin. And yes, Grin, some of the things you say just stand out to me. I just say it to myself, let me store knowledge, because I can come in handy for me later, and maybe even put it in my own words to understand it better. I did come in handy. I'm going to include that what you said. Thank you for repeating it. Now I remember it in its time. Yes, my boy. Also, you better fucking tell me how you put it in your own words. That way I can that can help me too. I can now have a more neurological pathways to leading to the same thing over and over again in my head. Share the damn love. Okay. Fluff says, I link the stream itself to the VTuber channel once it's finished. Nice. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are in love with the VTuber thing. I like it too a lot. I'm not one of those people. I am not as into the economy, or like the ecosystem. That's the word, ecosystem, as other people, but I still love love the wholesomeness of it all. They're doing NewExcited, Unforbidden Hololive Anthem as a whole group. Okay. Wait, it's Ochimi Kainu? Okay. Project says, understanding your analytics is really deep to knowing what they enjoy. But the mastermind bit is what I was talking about. On Reddit, if you search YouTube Mastermind, you get a few subreddits that talk about the subject and offer invites. I think that might be a good place to start. That's fucking amazing. I'm gonna take a picture of that project. I had no idea there was a cute little Reddit group. That's awesome. Holy shit. Here I thought I was gonna have to like make a whole ass video when like I don't think anyone who watches me is into that. Like my whole audience is me like shit posting like goofy, fun, wholesome bullshit. Like trying to help people in a video game or something. I'm not sure any people who are like, that's the guy who I want to talk YouTube with, and I'm like, damn it. that's really good advice. I didn't even know that was a thing. That's perfect. Project, do you do YouTube in any way? I'm not trying to force you in here. I'm just curious because you seem to have an interest in it. I'm wondering what that looks like. But yeah, what do you call it? Now, the book I'm reading, I don't know if it has like another course tied to it. 'Cause I think the book is like the entry point, and I think the guy later expanded upon like making an even bigger course for like a little bit more money, which I don't think is drastic. More money. I think in that higher level course, I think he does have like a quote unquote mastermind program built in, to where like he'll force you to be with people like you and you stick together, figure it out. Because in retrospect, you don't need, like, I understand how it works, or I think I understand how the reason why it works. You know, the reason why just the value proposition of somebody like flipping through your video and being like, here's where I learned in my experience when like doing woodworking or something. Could be not even like connected. That's one of the things that's awesome about a book called Disrupt You, is it talks about how like industries that you wouldn't think had like such an amazing piece of technology, a lot of disruption is those industries being brought over to another industry and like disrupting the entire ecosystem. So like something that might work for vloggers that nobody has capitalized in the gaming space, but you somehow can understand because this person is telling you why it works, and you can understand the baseline of why that works, to where then you can optimize for it in your video in the way that it would work in your context / gaming videos. So I just to me, I really see that whole mastermind thing being like this. If you could just be, but again, I'm worried that I'm the one who is way too juiced up to on this stuff. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, I'm so into this, not craziness. Granted, there's also probably a good bit of people there too who like that. But yeah, Lone Singlet says, "Don't worry, Grin. I got you. I'll let you know when I'm feeling more confident in the quality of how my work will turn out." Ooh, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. Lone Singlet. Fluff says, "You're not as deep into the VTuber rabbit hole as I am, which is okay. It's quite the roller coaster and emotions that I'm happy to be a fan, but it's easily consumed my entertainment average." Yes. Again, which I think it's just nice because it just seems like the whole VTuber thing, Fluff, has just been like another fun lens of like content creation. You know what I mean? It's just like it's a cool billboard for people who maybe didn't give a second look at normally. You know, they're just another streamer, they're just another whatever. But with this one change, can make people like give them a few seconds, and that few seconds can be, oh, this channel actually has a decent amount of viewership now. And for whatever reason, a lot of people do that. A lot of people, when looking at Twitch, will search just what's the most trafficked thing right now. Like, why is this so popular? And they watch it like, it's because he's hilarious. Okay, and then you're bought in essentially. But people giving them that chance because they have that unique twist was really interesting. Also, one of the things, I don't know if I want to break this down. This is a lot. This is not in the book, but it's in after I've read like fucking 8 books about different subjects about like growing a business, coming up with ideas, creating stuff, fucking the human psychology, human marketing strategy. just a lot. You guys have been there. You guys have been there like, oh, he's doing another one of those bullshit things. Okay. I may watch this as I'm going to sleep tonight to sleep because it's just a lot. And I'm like, I get it. But can anybody extrapolate on what I mean by this? It is incredibly important to know the answer to a question. I think it is also really, really great and important to understand the question, what the question is trying to get the answer from you for. It's important to understand the importance of the question. There we go. It's important to understand the answer. It's important to understand the question. And it's even more important to understand why the question is even being posed in the first place. Why do you need to know this? Does anybody understand what that means? It kind of makes sense, but because you mean that's where it starts to lose it, which is actually the whole question in itself, in a way. Oh man, I don't know. I wrote a whole ass paragraph about this in the morning after I was doing my book because I was like, I just was thinking, and I was in that like stupid layered bullshit thinking, and yeah, that's where I came to. Ugh, woof, woof. I'm sure you guys will nail it, but I'll start rambling about it in the damn time. But yeah, to me, it's like, it's important to understand like the answer to the question. So like if somebody says something like something that it said in the book, what does this creator do to re-engage his audience? That'll be the question. Now, understanding what the right answers are something to the effect of, oh, okay, I'm supposed to go and look for moments that make you pulled into the video, moments that make you feel like you've gotten a little jolt of excitement or curiosity or interest. I'm looking for those moments in the video. So you're looking for a good answer to the question. But it's also important to understand the question itself. What is the person trying to do by asking you the question? The question is about engagement. Well, the person is trying to get you, by asking you this specific question, is trying to get you to look through successful content, people that have succeeded, and basically sift through their video that is successful. It resonated with people because it had decent views, had decent likes, and then you're trying to extrapolate what they did right and how they pulled people back in. Now, what's interesting there is I made a leap there, but it made sense. So one of the things in that thing was, the original sentence was, what does this person do to re-engage their audience? Now, because I went back and I understood why the person was asking the question, was they're trying to get this outcome from me, which is to like understand what these people are doing, I was able to understand that, oh, okay, I need to look at successful people, because that could be where you'd get the wrong answers. If you were just looking at like random people on YouTube, because you were just trying, like, person says, why does this person get this many views, or like is successful or has this engagement? Well, you were looking into answers and you were basically getting the wrong answer because you didn't understand the why to the what that was happening with the question itself. So like, oh, okay, the person is wanting me to, basically the whole reason why the question is being posed in the first place is because the person is trying to get you to succeed, and one of the ways you can succeed is by finding out how successful people did something successfully, and then understanding how you could implement that for your own content in a way that's not stealing, but just, taking note of what happened. But then there's even more of a thing, which is, why is this whole thing even happening? Why is this discussion, the whole thing? Why is the question and the answer important? What is it actually asking? So then you would take a step back and you'd say, okay, well, the person is trying, I know the person's asked this question to get me to find this type of information. I know the information. The information is engagement. That's the word that stands out to me. What is this question trying to solve for? Probably trying to avoid people becoming bored or people disengaging. So we're trying to avoid that. So we're trying to avoid people disengaging with the content, or we're trying to avoid people getting bored of the content. And then with that like nugget of like, the person is clearly trying to make me avoid this. Why is boredom something to be avoided? Because it makes people click off the video. I understand the whole web of knowledge now. Also, what's important about this is you're creating more neurons in your brain to help you remember the shit. So if you remember the question or an aspect of that question, like why it's being asked, that sets off a neurological keyway in your head that could lead back to the answer. Same thing as the answer leading back to the question, and then you truly understand the entire thing. But then if you want to even extrapolate more and kind of get into the brain of your teacher, then you would take a further step back and to see what they're trying to avoid for. And by doing that, you could come to the deduction of boredom is something that the person is trying to get me to avoid or trying to solve. And then, knowing that, you could say, okay, well, what are the things that make people bored? You could ask yourself a bunch of different questions whilst breaking down information in 1,000 different ways so you could get an answer that is optimized for you. Like that's something Alone Syndicate said is, I want to say something in my own words so that I remember it. We also want to say something in your own words so that you maybe can get closer to what is the truth of what is trying to solve, what you're trying to solve for. Well, one of the things is if you know boredom is a thing, you know engagement is a part of the question and the thing you're trying to solve for, you could make the deduction of, okay, well, the person is trying to get me to break down videos to find engagement. One of the things that they're trying to get me to do is to break down moments that people do. So this is something that you'd be like, I noticed Mr. Beast is doing like zoom-ins. This works for his audience. It may not work for mine. Just something always to consider. He's talking in excessive high cadence, basically speaking in like waves, essentially. So people kind of keep locked in and engaged. He's also cutting pretty fast. He's also like cutting down a process into like 30 seconds. So like he's buying all these cars to give away to people. It only takes 30 seconds. So even though it took 5 weeks, so it just quick done to the point, boom. So you eventually break all that down, but then you eventually realize, okay, well, I understand the whole idea of the question. Boredom is what we're trying to solve for. Does this solve boredom entirely? And the answer is, actually, I don't think it does. Like, this helps people re-engage, but people will always eventually get bored by a premise, an idea, essentially. And then comes the question of, oh, well, people are always going to get bored of an idea. Yes, it's helpful for me to know how to engage people in this way, to make people excited. To like use a camera angle to pull people's interest in, but it's also important to understand that everyone eventually is going to have to remake the wheel, is going to have to create a brand new series with a brand new format that's really interesting. So that's something that you need to consider. That's something that you need to start working on sooner rather than later, because that's a path that's going to be there for you. So you need to understand, now that we've broken down that whole question, we've broken down the extrapolation of what it's trying to avoid, we've gotten into our teacher's head, we've understood what our teacher is trying to say, and we've better understood the problem he's trying to solve, to where now we can actually try to solve that problem with our own understanding as well, with all the information that we gained in the past and maybe in the future if we don't have any takeaway in the moment. So, knowing that we now need to become good at creating something from nothing, why not actually start delving into how to do that? And to me, that was one of the cooler things today, as I thought about this. Thought about this and I was like, oh, okay, so that's something that's an inevitable future that I'm going to have to go to eventually. How do I optimize for that future? And essentially what I did was I was thinking about all of the cool things in which ways people kind of reformat stuff. And I want to just talk at you guys for a little bit. But one of those things was how clever certain premises are. So basically, a way of formatting content in videos is creating, how do I put it? Taking a theme that other people have done for a long time, doing research on that theme, understanding what makes it good, and then adding a twist. So one of the best examples of this is, for instance, Hot Ones. Hot Ones took the boring as hell interview process, which was very popular back in the day with radio guy, I forget his name. He's like one of the most better interviewer people loved him bits. People loved interviews, but eventually it got a little stale because that's all people were seeing. People didn't reinvent the wheel. It was interview after interview, talk show after talk show, 5-minute segments on a TV show. Blech. People were disinterested. But lo and behold comes Hot Ones, where they said, okay, it's an interview show, but we're going to throw a twist in there with making the people who are experiencing the thing eat hot wings, which will throw them off, basically making it way more interesting. Not only that, but we're going to add other forms of engagement, like a journey, like a going through one hot sauce to the second, so people are have a vested interest in seeing if this person can make it to the end. So there's multiple things going on there, but let's just take the idea of like, okay, interview show, but we're throwing people off by making them eat these spicy things. Kevin Hart did another one of those, which is basically same thing, an interview show where Kevin Hart basically got in a cold tub with some people. Some people are saying that was stealing Hot Ones things. I don't really think so. I think that's weird. It's like I think it's a different type of twist, but with the same like format, which I think is fine because it has enough new that I don't know. I feel it was weird. People were saying that was the same thing. But anyways, and then Kevin Hart also had another one which I feel like is way more authentic to like what he was doing. But basically, he had kind of an interview-esque thing for like movie stars, but they went out and did exercise. So it's like, here's a premise, but here's the twist. And that's kind of the format system that you can do for a lot of videos. And another example that to me is way easier is you don't need to be as crazy as like, you know, having a whole budget with like a whole camera crew and having to set up a bunch of different spicy foods and having like the worst diarrhea of your life every single time you do the show. Another example which was great was basically you go do like an interview show you go and eat at a restaurant. But the twist doesn't have to be crazy. The twist could be ordering the most expensive item on the menu and the least expensive menu on the item. Or you could be going and if there's like a rating system for food, you could go to a restaurant and order the lowest reviewed item and the highest reviewed item. And that could be something interesting, like a twist, not even like a crazy twist, not even like a necessarily break the bank kind of twist. But also like one of the things that you also need to consider about formatting content is like a bunch of other things that are important. Like basically making a series of something, you have to consider how easy it is to make a thing. Like one of the greatest examples is Minecraft. Like people are constantly showing on Minecraft, but it's a game that has endless potential and endless creation in it. So people basically could constantly do that exact thing. They could do, it's a Minecraft video, but here's this person making like a gigantic tower. It's a Minecraft video, but it's a contest between 6 individuals trying to fight over a shiny tower. There's like, you know, this what do you call it? It's Minecraft, but it's heavily modded with like guns and it looks it looks completely different than Minecraft. Yeah, so there's like multiple aspects of those things that could make that twist happen. With things like Cult of the Lamb or things like that, it's like it's a game like Binding of Isaac, but you could build a cute little cult essentially. But I don't know if that it's not like Minecraft where you could do it's Binding of Isaac and there's dog people. Like it doesn't quite have the same like infinite variability that like a Minecraft would, or that like like a Fortnite kind of would, because it's constantly having updates to the game. So you could do, hey, it's Fortnite, but there's a brand new weapon. It's Fortnite, but there's a brand new sky. So like these are the ways of formatting and things that would be quite interesting, I think. But yeah, that was what I was thinking about beforehand. I don't know what led me to that. But yeah. Oh, I know that's what it led me to. Because I know that eventually the problem that we're optimizing for with making videos in a lot of ways is re-engaging people, making people interested, avoiding people being bored. Because I understood all those things. I broke down the question, I understood the answer, I did all that stuff. I eventually came to the deduction of, boredom is what we're trying to fight against. We're trying to keep people interested and excited to experience whatever we're talking about. Knowing all that led me to like how important the information was, which was re-engagement, and then to be like, okay, does re-engagement fix the boredom problem across the board? Not really in this particular aspect. I need to become better at just understanding how to make a series from the ground up. And I wouldn't have gotten that if I wouldn't have broken that down in the way that I did. And then to be like, okay, well, how would you go about solving that problem? And then I was just kind of going throughout my business today, and I was like, here's these channels that have done a really good job about like, here's a way to format something. A general concept that most people know with a twist. And to me, going through all the examples of like the Hot Ones, Achievement Hunter did a lot of stuff with Minecraft back in the day. Like there's just plenty of examples. Same thing with Kevin Hart doing that like exercise, interviewing stars kind of thing, was all of those examples of taking a baseline concept that people have had an interest in, but it got played out, and then reinventing it or adding something on top, which is interesting. Another example is I was watching a podcast recently, which I thought was so clever, but every like 5 or so podcasts, or maybe 8 or 9, the dude who does the podcast will like dress up in a silly outfit to make a point, you know. You might know the podcast, but there's like costumes basically, and there's a visual element. So that costume lends itself to a thumbnail, but also lends itself to like basically re-engaging your audience. So like if people who are like, if people are eventually going to get bored of you and they're going to take some time away, which is absolutely okay. But the problem is that people will basically just maybe leave you behind entirely because YouTube will eventually smother you. So if you have like a really interesting title that makes the person that's taking a break from you be like, what's happening with this? And then they like, because you're wearing a weird pirate outfit or something, and they will start to watch the podcast and they listen to it and they're like, man, I love this podcast. Why did I stop watching it? It's because it got a little played out. But now that you're taking some time away, you're now recovered, you can enjoy it again at a higher level, or at the same level that you used to. And that's the kind of dance that you need to constantly do, is like these twists or re-engagement or interesting premises that make you re-engage with the content that you've already enjoyed. Kind of like one of the best examples to me in that regard is Harry Potter. Like Harry Potter did a really good job about creating a world where the core fan base just liked to exist in, but then kept adding stuff like new characters, romances, new enemies, what do you call it? Basically just like again, this Harry Potter series is like touted as being like a series that grew with its audience, like age wise, like maturity wise. By the end of the movie you were hearing bitch dropped and stuff like that. So the series was like evolving with its audience and like constantly adding interesting premises. Like here's the aspect of the world that you've never seen before, which is like potions. And if you eat this slug thing, you go into the water, holy fuck, you turn into a mermaid person. Like these are things that the fandom, the core audience would resonate with them, but also would shake things up enough to where you're like, ooh, this is different. This is interesting again. This feels refreshing almost. So that's, to understand that mechanic, I thought was helpful for me. But anyways, that was I didn't learn that from the book I'm reading or the thing. I was just thinking about that today, and I thought, that's a good way to think about how to become like really good at understanding information and to kind of go beyond your teacher itself, which is to understand the answer, to then understand the question, and then understand why your teacher is trying to get you to, or trying to give you that question in the first place. All right, comments. Sorry, I just wanted to make that point because I thought I'm not going to be able to do this if I read chat in a minute. Fluff says, boiling it down, that's exactly what it is. It's an appealing outlet that has been a boon to viewers and content creators. Like, yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a great, yeah. Yes. Always more eloquently said by Fluff. Fluff says, for those that are uncomfortable showing their real faces or simply being on camera or speaking for an extended period of time, VTuber has become a potential big confidence booster for them. Yeah. I agree 100%. There's a small part of me that's like, it's like the same thing I hear when I hear people talk about like, alcohol is a social lubricant. Part of me is like, yeah, I don't know if I want a substance to be tied to me being confident or happy with myself or like entertaining. So I don't think it's what makes a lot of people entertained, but I do think that's probably a something there where like it gives people a confidence boost because. Fluff, I know, I totally relate to this. Remember when I talked about this beforehand, but when I was in the heyday of making my masks, I would talk about when I put one on, it got bad, or got good. It got good and bad, where like I always felt like I wasn't me. I was like embodying whatever was funny. Like I find it really hard to do like certain things that like Tectone does, or like there's PewDiePie does in some cases. Any like good comedian does, which is basically like they dissolve their ego, their self, their image, their like anything, and they just say some absurd shit just because it's hilarious. And I always found like I am me. I can't pretend I'm like I'm just this goof. I'm a goof, but I feel bad saying something that's risque. Ugh. Fluff says, for those that are uncomfortable showing, Lone Singit says, also Grin, I got so caught up in my project, I forgot I wanted to will you about this anime I recently, you want to talk about the anime you recently started? It's called Monster of the Goddess of Dormitory? I've never heard of it, I don't think. There might be one I've heard that's similar. Is the girl have red hair? If that's the case, maybe. But I don't think I've heard about it. Hit me with it. What's good, Luminant? It's been a goddamn eternity, you beautiful man, woman, whomever. Luminant says your best time was the Let It Die time? Question mark. But I love your thinking, speaking to till today. So, what do you mean? What do you mean, Luminant? For me, no, absolutely not. I don't think Let It Die was my best time. I know a lot of people resonate with that content. I know a lot of people like that content a lot. I think my best time, it sounds crazy, but I kind of think, what do you define as best? Because I would say my best time, I think, would be the Battleborn days, to be honest. I had to do the least amount of work. I got the most yield. I had the most fun because I was just being a goofball. I literally did. I also had the most growth. And people misunderstand. We're at 25,000 subscribers on YouTube on our GRINN channel. Most of those people did not come from Let It Die. Though that probably 10K. I think we had 15K by the time Let It Die was probably out. I think. Maybe not. But people don't realize I had like many little tiny little spurts over the course. So like we did Don't Starve, which was a good little boost. I think I got around 6K from that. We did all those other ones. What was it called? Battleborn. But I will say it's weird because if I were to point out like a series that had resonance, it's Let It Die. But also I don't know if that's me. I could be egotistical and say it's me. I think it's also that nobody else was playing that game. And people like eventually had to put up with me enough to where I just kind of was like a parasite that grew out of them. Essentially, that was like, hey, I'm the only one here, and I'm trying to help you. And they're like, I hate you, fine. And they're like, I kind of like hearing you when I'm running up the tower. Barb's screaming all the time, so fine. And then I'm here, and yeah. Oh, Project has replied. Talking about the anime, looks like it. Project says, not a YouTuber, just a viewer mostly. I'm a data guy, so analytics, it's really interesting to me. Seeing where your traffic comes from, how long they stay, and what they do when the video is over. Like if you have to go to the end screen, yeah. What if they go to the suggested tab? Suggested is. Or watch another video of yours is a good understanding changes you may want to make. There's a website called Social Blade, or TubeBuddy, or all these things, allow you to see your competitors, it channels data, like subscriber growth and videos. I haven't checked out Social Blade in a while, but I kind of want to, but I feel like every time I've seen Social Blade be used, it's usually just like subscriber analytic. I hope it lets you see everything. I do think there's something that is way crazy, Project. You might love it. It's called Video IO something. A better one I think is TubeBuddy is what it's called. But vidIQ is what it's called. vidIQ. I can see every single person's analytics on a video. I can see their most viewed video, most viewed video. I can see their engagement, which is fucking wild. I can see how long people are staying on their video, which is usually like a minimum of 5 minutes most people have, and they'll click off. So I can see that. I can also see their tags. I can see these little fuckers' tags, dude. I can see when they put like PewDiePie in the tags, and I'm like, that don't work anymore, bud. The analytics system, the AI can watch your whole video, determine what its content is, and then understand when you're lying about what's in its content. If PewDiePie shows up in one of the images, it counts. It was like, okay, sure. But if it doesn't, it don't count. So it just knows that you're lying, and your like score for honesty will diminish. Anyways, so I can see the tags. I can see like all of the things that it did in terms of like sharing on Twitter, all those things. I can get a really good reading on all the things that this video did that succeeded. But also, granted, you don't even need to do that, Project. One of the things that to me I thought was so fun and interesting was you basically go into whatever niche you're trying to go into. So for me, it was like Borderlands or Wonderlands, which not only just by going around that whole community and like aggregating content, I fell in love because it was so cool because I basically I could see if there was a lot of value in the Wonderlands community, which is to say, is there anybody watching like the highest creator, like the top of the top, is only getting like maybe 80K views. And it's like, oh, there's not a lot of people in demand for this right now. And it's just because Wonderlands is in a bad state. The previous Borderlands games were in fucking high demand, you know? Anyways, so that was helpful. But then what you would do is you'd aggregate all of the other videos in your channel, essentially, or on their channel. So you'd go to their most successful video and you'd post it and you'd break it down. It's crazy when you like take from different channels, like various different thumbnails that they made, and you put them all together and you're like, a lot of these are doing almost identical same things. And then you look at their current videos that aren't doing well, and they're not doing some of the commonality of what all these other ones are doing, which is like there's a specific kind of text, there's a specific kind of highlighting of text, there's a specific like contrast to things. There's always a face in the side of the screen, you know, even if it's a cartoony Borderlands face, which is also why my videos are like that. But yeah, all that's wildly interesting. But it's cool that like you don't even need these like other things. You could just go in there, search by most viewed, aggregate as many of those videos as possible, go through them and see what their commonality of what they're doing in all of the videos are, and then be like, there's probably something here. What is the reason why there's a face in the side of the screen always? What is the reason why at this specific time everybody says like and favorite or something? What is the time, like it's funny, every single person in the Wonderlands community now has like an intro that dictates like movement, essentially. Like it showcases the build of the video, that it has like a bunch of funny stream clips all at once, because it kind of is a quote-unquote hook, like a story hook, something that gets you invested in the journey, like makes you think, oh, this is worth me watching because the dude just did 1 billion damage to the character, or he just used a fire spell that I've never seen melt somebody, you know, which I think is interesting. Luminate says, no, Luminate says, that was what I read. Fluff says it's a social mask, for better or for worse. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Lone Sigurd says, that says, mother, not monster. Mother of the goddess dormitory? What is this about? Okay, I'm even more interested in this. What is happening? Lone Sigurd. Illumina says, okay, nice. Fluff says, Let It Die might have been your most widespread success on individual level, but it was ones that discovered you during Battleborn. Yeah. I was one of the ones that discovered you in Battleborn. So it was probably the game that had sowed the seeds, and Let It Die was the one that blossomed. Yeah. It was definitely like Dude, like they talk about this like constantly within the book, but it's like if you are not looking back at your past videos and thinking, what the fuck happened, or like not like why did I do this? Like I could make this so much better now. It's like I could have just not uploaded a game where I lost, or like uploaded significantly less. Almost every fucking video of Battleborn that I uploaded, especially towards the end, because nobody's playing it, and only the hardest core people were playing it. I'm not hardcore, man. The people were just fucking dunking on me. The only thing I did kind of have a going is that I was like, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die slow. I'm gonna make it painful. So I would like, but eventually that was like 15 videos of just me being like, running at the spider and being like, not today, bitch, and then just dying slowly, you know? And then every now and again you get one W, or you get like one person out of alignment. That was the problem with Battleborn. It was so important if like one or two people were just shitting the bed. Oof. Painful, especially as the game went on. It became even more like terrible because the healers could get even more juiced, DPSs could get like all of their enchantments unlocked, and you're just getting destroyed. Like it was whew. Also so much strategy in Battleborn where like you could have artifacts that immediately gave you a payoff of damage, which would help you in the early game, and you could stomp on them and end them quick, or you could have like artifacts that required so much juice but they fucking gave you stupid buffs, so you could just make it slow and then have all the juice at the end and just start fucking gunning it at people. Also, you could just have somebody who was like breaking crystals without even getting them, just to despawn them. God, that game was way too ahead of its time. Nobody knew the potential of that game, baby. Whew. Luminant says, so it's just me. I don't know, found you through Let It Die. It was no. Luminant, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people who found me through Let It Die. I don't get that wrong. I think like to me, I would quantify my like most successful period to be probably the Battleborn series, because it's like a quantity of effort. The Let It Die, I had to work my ass off to get by. It also took a long time. It also was like I was making content for a player base, which I knew almost like were inevitably gonna hopefully see my videos, just because nobody else was producing content, but there wasn't that many people there looking in the first place. Now it does have a yield, because it's a game that's free to play, so multiple people are still playing Let It Die today that are watching the series, so those videos are actually doing incredibly well. But it still doesn't have like if I were to make play a game that like multiple people were interested in a moment, and I was able to capture the value, then I would do good, which is kind of what happened with Wonderland. Like I made like, I want to say 80 videos of Let It Die, and then I started seeing like a good bit of like turnover. I made 2 videos of Wonderlands when it came out. 3 videos, sorry. 4 videos. That really like immediately got me a crazy bit of attention in the series, and like our one build video just got 2,000 views, and I was stuck at like 80 views on our normal channel covering any game ever. So yeah, that's the kind of a part of it where you need to look at like capturing value. The issue that I'm kind of trying to work on now is serialized content that I can constantly keep making, which is builds can be that, but builds also require a lot to make. So I'm excited for Cult of the Lamb to try to see if I can capture that value. I think that's the best way to look at it. I don't think I'm really ever going to be like, Fortnite's booming, so let me go take some of that. You know, I think it's more like, of a game to me I'm interested in, like this is the crossover between me having a passion for something and then me trying to capture the value that passion has, the audience that passion also has, the same things. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go do that with Cult of the Lamb. I think I'm gonna do that with Saints Row, but in the downtime between some of those games happening, I'm probably gonna start shifting over and doing the like a way more general thing on the Share GRINN channel, which has been getting really successful when it comes to not really successful. It's been getting pretty successful, like movement essentially, on the anime recommendation front. Like the Should You Watch series has been doing really well, but that's also because that's an inevitable video that I know people would search for. So it's kind of yeah, interesting how you gotta pace things out. Fluff says it's honestly how YouTube and Twitch tend to be nowadays. It's not easy to gain a consistent following. Some videos just happen to be at just the right time to see a ton of success, and GRINN has been studying up with various books to help find greater success on these platforms. Well, that's actually the thing, Fluff. I don't know if I 100% agree with that, and that's only because of Wonderland. I was blown away. I read the book. The book, for those guys who do not know, is formatted in a way that's kind of like, here's all the reasons why I'm going to teach you what I'm going to teach you. Here's the importance of YouTube. Here's all this stuff. And now we're going to go over the specific details of what I actually mean. But you can kind of extrapolate, especially with my crazy brain that overthinks things, extrapolate on a lot of what he's saying. So you can take that information, and I basically made like the Wonderland build, in which I was like, okay, I'm gonna scout a little bit. The book didn't even really talk about this, but I went around. I've been in the Wonderlands community for a long time, the Borderlands community for a long time. So I understood what like kind of made builds interesting. I modeled a lot of my builds off of a person who is named Moxie, which I greatly think is fantastic. And then I also optimized for what I think people want. So it was like I think people want to have like a nice voiceover. I think builds don't need to be this like super fucking ADHD. Here's what we're doing. There's this, there's that. Like some people go like super zoomed in shit all the time. I kind of formatted our builds in more of like a kind of a soft, almost ASMR like voiceover of like, here's a story arc. Here's as we're building, and like this kind of like wave essentially. Coupled with like me trying to give as much value as I possibly could, and then after doing all the scouting of like, okay, here's what I think people want, because if I could kind of break down how I think things function now, is you need to basically do recon on an environment, whether that's like, hey, Fortnite's poppin'. I think this is what streamers kind of do, but do poorly. The same thing with YouTubers, where they basically see something is popular and they make content quickly on it. That's not right. I think you need to see something is popular, basically see that there are people who are interested in that content, slow down, understand what those people want and value, and then make the content not only for yourself, but for them. That's what art is. Art is making something not only for yourself, but for you. Otherwise, it would just be a picture in your house, or like a cool little design that only you'd ever see. So that to me is one of the things where like you would look at something that has a bunch of people in the environment, understand what they want from that thing, and oftentimes it's specific. Like you don't want to try to grab everyone all at once. You're trying to specifically go for builds in the Wonderland space, because maybe you're like, oh, this is something that can kind of be endless. I think would endlessly be searched for, and I think people would binge, given it's all on the same level. So like level 50 build of this, level 50 build of that. People would binge through all those builds and see which ones were the most interesting to them. Those kinds of things, if that makes any sense. But yeah. But I do think you could like you could genuinely succeed. Like, I don't know if it's a question of if, because I do think it's a question of execution. Like, it's something that the book says as well, is like, good content is something that you can kind of make, and you can kind of get a cheat sheet for looking at other people, but the execution and the real deep understanding of why they're doing what they're doing, and then being able to perform that, is something that takes time. Which is also, like, again, I don't think it means you can't succeed. I think it means it takes time. Like, I'm not sure if everyone has the heart to take time with that, which I certainly did not look at. All of these thoughts I'm having now I've been awakened in the last month when I started reading this specific book. Like Fluff says, I read a lot of books that I think helped. This is the book that I think made everything make significantly more sense in terms of why things succeeded, the things in which they did, and then I applied an eighth of the things that they did, and I've seen a lot of yield out of it. And I'm kind of still in that place where I'm trying to learn as much as I can before I apply it, although I am still slightly applying it. You guys might notice that on the Share GRINN channel, there's like certain thumbnail changes, like it's white with like a couple highlighted words, because in all of the research I've done, that's far more catching to the eye. I'm still not great at coming up with like titles and thumbnails that are like make you dive in, because I just haven't done as much research as I need to in order to do that, because I'm trying to finish the book and then like go to my other channels and do all the other stuff. But yeah. Let me catch up on chat. Also, Project says, oh, that, yeah, the like the little thing I was telling you about, like you could see the extrapolate on all these things. Fluff says, not just you, honestly, most of the games are doing that, but I'd say it goes Battleborn, Let It Die, Genshin, in your growth rate. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good thing. Illuminate says, I hate that you have so little view. No, it's okay, Illuminate. To me, if you've seen the Brothers GRINN channel, it's actually doing quite well. And yeah, but also it's funny because it shows the importance of like an audience that's there. Because in the original like GRINN channel, I was able to get like 20,000 views in the first week, essentially, of like, or not first week, but first month maybe. That's where people were. But now, as like, and the data shows this, that there's not that many people in the Wonderlands community searching for shit. So the video still did well, because it still like was what people wanted, I think, from a build. They want to have power, they want to have an interesting way of engaging, and they want to have something that they can have fun engaging with. But anyways, but that video had like 1,000 views, which it still might have a lot more, and I only need a little bit more in order to get my monetization, essentially. Actually, the thing that's kicking my ass is not the fucking that, it's the subscribers. You need like, I think, 1,000 subscribers on a gaming channel, I think, or no, that's it's on any channel, and a fuck ton of watch time, which I'm like, god damn you, that subscriber thing is gonna be a pain in my ass, because yeah, I think I could pull some like wholesome guide stuff happening with Cult of the Lamb though. Fluff says, it's honestly how you do. Oh, yeah, I read that. Fluff says, even the AI was left in the state where if you got a boulder on either team, it was GG, because well, that was the AI. I'm talking about people. Fluff says, nobody knew the potential, especially a 2K or Gearbox. Yeah, man. I feel like if they just juiced it up now, it'd be significantly better, but maybe not. But people maybe were sick of the hero shooters. I do think that like Battleborn was the hero shooter with a hell of a twist, which was MOBA essentially, you know. Fluff says, multiple Versus released into open beta last week, and it's surprisingly fun. Smash Bros. Equivalent successor. Oh, really? A multi-versus. Okay. Yeah, that was a Smash Bros. Competitor. I think it was made by another one of the publishers that have a shit ton of IP. Oddly, one of my favorite characters thus far has been, wait for it, LeBron James in his cartoon Space Jam fiction. That's hilarious. LeBron just slaying. Oh my god. Fluff says, I like how Multiverse isn't doing what Nickelodeon Brawler game had done. It just copied playstyle and kit of Smash. The Warner Brothers characters, that's what it was, Warner Brothers characters, all feel unique and faithful to the characters and the memes around them, rather than, oh, it's Batman, but play like Snake or Granja, or Shaggy, but it's like Mario. That's awesome. Oh man, Shaggy just juiced because of the stupid memes. Lone Syndicate says, so it's about, okay, the anime that he talked about, it's about this boy whose life has took a turn for the worse. Like his house burns down and his father just up and leaves him to fend for himself. Basically, you see him almost die from starvation. Then right on cue, this woman offers him a helping hand. Okay, this isn't the Lucifer anime, where like the main girl is like a demon. No, this is different. This is probably different. There's a new anime coming out that I've seen a dub for, or like the dub clip of. It's like a weird like guy with glasses and like a little tiny Charmander bullshit on his arm. Anyways, that's interesting, Lone Singer. Give me more. I'm still lost. Still lost on what happened. Project says, I joined up from your Let It Die videos. I heard a lot from watching you play, and wasn't all that clear from just playing the game. Literally, I've been watching a lot of speedrun content just because it's challenging. Nice! There is usually a route to follow and tech to learn that oddly replays value of games you may have played to death already. Oh yeah. You mean like speedrunners, the way like speedrunners like give you so much more content given how they can break the game and make it interesting again? Yeah. I agree with that, if that's what you're saying. Clear it up if I'm off. Fluff says, figure out what's already been done and how to make your own contribution worth to the time without feeling redundant. Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it too. That's something I think is explicit a little bit, is you can't be someone else, but you can learn the ways in which they are doing things that are succeeding. Like, again, formatting I don't really have an issue with as much. I think that's why I got pissed off at like the to me, I think the Hot Ones, like the guy who made Hot Ones was getting pissed off at Kevin Hart for making Cold as Ice, or Cold Ones, or whatever it's called. Not Cold Ones, that's but he was like Kevin Hart getting in an ice bath because it's like the same format. I don't think that's fucked up, because Kevin Hart's his own personality. He does it in his own way. It's honestly not really a deep dive into the people's backgrounds. Like, this is an entirely different execution of the format, which I don't think has that much of an issue. It's like the person who did Let's Plays. It's like, does he own the whole thing? Like, it's weird, you know? So, but I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, but research I think is super important. Yeah. Lone Singer says she is in college, so she takes him back to his dorm and she shares with them like 40. Yeah, no, I've seen the thing. Yeah, you didn't tell me he was show to bullshit. You didn't tell me that bit. Okay. Yeah, I've seen the. It's one of the Anvil creators' favorites because it's just, yeah. But yeah, it looks like a goofy fun time, albeit a little much. A little much. Although I don't really understand. Oh, the goddess part is probably just because like she's attractive. That makes sense. Yeah, and he becomes like the dorm mother. Yeah. Fluff says, and as I said, it's not easy, but it's very much possible to succeed as a newer content creator. Yeah. I just think that it's the one thing that, like, if I could tell anybody of like what, like, if you want to succeed, I to me, I think people always sold it in the worst way possible, which is like, you want to get views and subs, buy my course, or like listen to me. when it's like, no, listen to your environment. Listen, if you want to succeed, what do you determine success? Maybe you don't just determine it to be views. Maybe you determine it to be money. Money and views are kind of tangentially connected. Granted, maybe not. If you're able to capture a specific audience that would want your product, you'd be good. But anyways, it's like determining what you want from the system and then saying, okay, well, why not learn from other people who are doing it really well? And then furthermore, like understanding that there's so much, like YouTube, like one of the best things to hear is that YouTube actually wants you to succeed a lot. It wants you to do well. It wants you to do the thing that YouTube had to do back in the day, which YouTube started off as a dating site. It wants you to do what it did, which is basically listen to feedback and adjust. Don't change completely, but adjust enough to where you'll basically succeed, where you'll optimize for your audience, and then you'll keep optimizing for your audience. YouTube has stopped kind of doing that, but it's also so big at this point that its audience is kind of too general to kind of make a change, because it'll piss off one of the parties of the ecosystem, like advertisers or viewers or creators. So yeah. Fluff says, there's other content creators that have been around since the glory days of YouTube, and simply say, how to become a YouTuber now? You can't, unless you can travel back in the day when we exploded in popularity. But then that's absolutely nonsense, because there's so many people that are doing that still. It's not like people haven't gotten, like, it's just specific niches. Again, the best way to describe it is you need to hyper-focus on a specific niche, a specific group of people. So again, for me, it was like, my example would always be, I want to be in the gaming space. I like this game called Wonderlands. It's a new game coming out. I have seen over the years that people like builds from this game. That's a specific niche of community. What does that specific niche value and like? I made videos for that, and now I think if I were to make other Wonderlands videos, they would probably do well. I made like a news video that did pretty damn well, and in fact, one of the better videos on our original GRINN channel when I was optimizing for that game. The new channel is kind of like just me. I'm like training ring without any value being there. It's like I'm sweeping up crumbs, but I'm still actually getting something, which is insane, considering everyone else is also saving up those crumbs. But anyways, but yeah, that's something that I think. Then you basically expand your audience. But I haven't had the chance to do that because I have no interest in making any other content besides builds for Wonderlands, because there's not a lot to make. That's not true. I could get creative. I haven't yet, because I've been reading this book. There absolutely could be content that we can make from Wonderlands and other stuff, but be fair, yeah. But that's, I think, the formula that most people should tell people is you normally could just be in like the general space, like vlogger or gamer or gaming let's plays, and you could just get by. Now you need to specifically focus on a specific niche of people, make them happy enough to where they would ride for you, to where they would push your content if you made something else. Give that a try, and then they do, and then that's the YouTube system sees that there's someone giving that a shot, and then it will give it to other people in that same space, aka people who like Wonderlands, and then it will feed that, and then you'll slowly start to expand your audience, and then you need to extend your reach, quote unquote, to the mainstream. So you do something that most people would like, so say if you play Wonderlands, like looter shooters, or you'd play Wonderlands, you would extrapolate onto a bigger game system, a bigger gaming community, and then you would keep extending your reach. And then, like, a great example that they gave in the book was a guy always was basically doing lawyer content, like breaking down certain cases happening, all that stuff. But then he really found success, like incredible growth, when he not only satisfied his core love group or base, his core base, which was like people who like law, by finding a way to extend to the mainstream by doing lawyer reacts content. So lawyer reacts to liar, like the weird lawyer scene where he's just saying a bunch of shit and then being like, that wouldn't actually work, or that would be, they would immediately send him out of there. Like stuff like that. That's interesting to the audience, but also people who like movies. So like it's a way of extending your reach to like the movie genre, but also keeping it satisfied within the audience that you built. But Fluff says, but anyways, these people, these old OG YouTubers would say, like, you can't do it, which wasn't very helpful. They're also not acknowledging how they've been learning and adapting to different content output compared to what had made them popular back in the day. Yeah, or they don't, or they don't, and they haven't been, and they fall off bad. Which I don't think everyone is supposed to, like, I think the problem is that people keep uploading. I think most people would go through, like, it's okay for people to be bored of you. It's inevitable. You can't help by doing that, but you're trying to, like, constantly be in a different, like, you never stop playing the game of basically making your content show up in other places, you know, like whether that's search, whether that's suggested. You never stop trying to think about what people would value, because that's the thing. Like, if your only thing that you're creating is content for you, then you'll have no idea how to make a video that somebody would genuinely search for because they need to know this or they're interested in this. So you'd basically you have no new people coming in, and then you're basically just whittling away your audience, which inevitably is going to get bored with you. So you need to have like that churn rate of understanding each value system to make for suggested, to make for search, and etc. To do collaboration, so you're introduced to a new audience, and to do it well, which I think is very hard to do well. But yeah. Also, I think you started talking to me about this. Does me again? Whenever I'm able to rationalize, like speak aloud, it helps me calcify things in my head. Which I'm not like talking at you, like you don't understand fluff at all. I'm never doing that. I'm just doing it to me, so that I can rationalize it to myself. Because I know the more you speak things aloud, especially to someone else, you basically calcify a neurological pathway within the brain, helping you remember it. But yeah. Fluff says, Multiverse is the Warner Brothers game brawler that DC made. It had Shaggy, Velma, Adventure Time, Steven Universe. Holy shit, that sounds like crazy of a good bit. Rick and Morty, weird. I didn't know that was, I guess that makes sense. It's in the, Adult Swim, which I think is owned by Warner Brothers. Huh. It's quite the cast of, like, dirty bastards and wholesome cartoons. Fluff says, Shaggy is all-rounded brawler. He can charge up and enraged with his Super Saiyan aura. The game is focused on 2v2 mode, where you have various co-op benefits that emphasize the team play. Okay, looks like they gave a lot of thought to it. Lone Singlet says, but the dorm, other referred to as the troubled dorm, and you soon see why. Like, all the girls are just insane in their own way. Like this is a wide range of character types. Like we have mad scientist, mad cosplay, chunibee person, tomboy, normal girl, tomboy and normal girl. I bet that's not so normal. And they all act and take on role of big sister type to the boy, and basically turns it into a family. Nice, but there's no blood relation. Is that correct? Also, this school sucks ass. The school's like, excuse me, this is not okay. This is not okay. Fluff's characters are assigned by roles of bruiser and balance, fighter, assassin, offensive focus, defensive, tank, all that stuff, support, buffer, all that stuff. Magus, the most projectile, Mages and Bugs Bunny, and Tom and Jerry, the latter of which is unique play, as since it revolves around the cat and mouse trying to fight each other instead of their opponent. It's all super well. That's so charming. Yeah, you said it's well animated and charming. It's so charming. Tom and Jerry, like, fuck off, bitch. I'm trying to kill this bastard. Fluff says, best of all, Multiverse is free to play. Oh, no shit. Which is rarity with fighting games. Yeah, really, yeah. Also for younger people, that's huge, I bet. That's such a good idea for them to, like, break into that. Yeah. And something that more should honestly consider as the most successful for peak player count out of any fighter game on Steam. Yeah, no, I think that's a stupid good idea, especially when, like, 90% of the reason why people love those games, I think, could be monetized easily. Like, seeing, like, Rick and Morty in a stupid, dumb, like, the Japanese animation, stupid stylization of them, I think people would buy. Seeing Shaggy have like a fucking outfit, like Super Saiyan outfit, people would love, like, you know, like all that shit. Like that's something I think people who have disposable income would buy. I don't think people would be like, this is disgusting, I hate it. Because the importance is just being able to, like, load up your PC. If they have crossplay, that'd be fucking huge. That means you could play with people on console, with Switch, with everything. I don't think Switch is in crossplay, but that would be such a smart idea. That's like Xbox and Game Pass level clever. Fluff says, best of all, I read that. There was a video I watched earlier that talked about some article on how they're only one out of the top 100 streamers on YouTube, and Twitch being a female. Oh, I see. Okay. Only to use the metrics of average peak and watch time, which is not only measured of success, which is not the only measure of success with a creator. Yeah. People are weird. People really seek validation. I think that's bad. I think it's a very bad idea. I think you should be the only one to validate yourself, big time. I think that's one of the biggest issues with ego. I think ego can actually be a pretty okay thing. It can, like, again, we talked about it, but like if you are in a place where you don't need not of the world is a stupid saying I always liked, but it's basically, I think, means basically don't require a lot to be happy. Find the ability to be happy in a silly moment. Like I pride myself on not needing to like go out every fucking day and like have dinner, buy expensive things. I can be pretty content and happy by talking to you guys, watching some anime, learning, growing, and applying what I'm learning, and feeling that my ambition sated in that way. But I know a lot of people who need, like when people say that they don't like them, it's like a genuine insult, or like a genuine, they feel hurt because they desperately want to feel validated, and people liking you is a way to feel validated. My thing is, I hate when I make people unhappy. That's my thing. But then people will use that against you as like, well, you made me feel this way. And then it's like, but I had no intention to do that. And they're like, it doesn't matter. My feelings are valid. And I'm like, your feelings are valid, but that doesn't mean they're true. Like I'm not going to accept that. I had an intent to hurt you. And if you don't like me, then I guess we have to walk away. But to be at the behest of needing people to idolize you is yikesy. Like I remember yesterday. No, not yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, it was 2 days ago when you were doing the Wonderland build. A lovely person came into our community, or came into our chat and said, like, sometimes people like look at you as like a leader in the space of builds or whatever. And I was just like, no, that's, I hate to say it, but that's a very obvious no. As well as I don't know how, again, I always go long distance in it, where like I don't know how you could ever own up to that. I don't know how you could ever, like, if I have to accept everybody emotions, my video, say if your video gets 50 views, you're gonna be responsible for 50 people's emotional state having responded to your video? That's fucking absurd. You're gonna get annihilated, my guy. Like, it's crazy. Now you can adjust. That's good. If your whole idea is that like a metric for success is having people enjoy your content and feel satisfied having watched it, then yeah, that's a good reason to adjust. That's because I'm adjusting for succeeding, essentially. But to say that you're adjusting to not make anyone ever feel anything negative towards you is nuts. It's nuts. Also, what if they're bad people? It's kind of good when your racist hates you. It's like, good, fuck them, bastards. Like, ugh. Fluff says success has multiple factors and ways to consider yourself successful, whether it's by views, watch time, subscribers, members, super chats, donations, etc. No, I think to me that was one of the things that I liked in the book a lot. Is it said, well, what is your goal? Like, that's the thing that you need to be honest with yourself. Like, if you don't want to make money here, maybe you just want influence. Kind of gross, but sure. Maybe you just want influence. Then your metrics are views and watch time, and like turnover rate. That's basically it. But then most people are like, well, to be honest, I would just like to create things and make people feel happy, and I would also like to have money. So then you're like, okay, so you're like just doing what everyone else is doing, essentially. So you're like, if you want a bit, like some people could say, I want a business, I want to make money from YouTube. Well, everything goes hand in hand usually. Or like if you capture value in a specific way through a specific niche, then you extend your reach, you tend to get viewership. If you pay attention to feedback, you can adjust and then increase your watch time, which will increase your search traffic, or your showing up in the various YouTube situations, suggestion, all that stuff. And if you format your content in a way that can be binge / people would like to marathon through, then that can drastically help you. And then by doing all of that, by increasing your reach, by getting views, by getting watch time, that will indicate usually by you getting more people to see your content, more people will buy into your content, more people will subscribe to your content, more people will consider buying your merch if you're making good content and providing genuine value to what your viewers want in general, you know. Then you can get even more from that. And it's like a system where like the system that like the guy made a good point in the book where he said the YouTube is basically a race where everybody has to run the same race, the same marathon, but the ways in which you can optimize for it is different. So someone may have the idea to want to run the race under an hour. Some people could have the desire to run the race without taxing themselves. Some people could want to run the race doing it a specific way, you know, without wearing shoes, whatever, you know, like it's all the same general sequence of like this that will get you that, but yeah. Fluff says, oh no, Lone Syndicate says, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm enjoying it. And it's a nice filler. Yes, I know, Lone Syndicate. That's a good thing. I will say, Lone Syndicate, I started the thing, by the way. I started an anime. Are we over? Oh my god, oh my god. Holy fucking shit. Boys, we're almost at 3 hours. What happened? Oh my god. Oh my god. I was like, it might be a fast stream. I was thinking about, dude, you Fluff and Lone, you guys weren't here. I was riffing for like 30 minutes. At least it felt that way, which I was actually fine to do. I was like, this is it, baby. This is what I prepared my whole streamer life for. This is the time when the stars align, nobody shows up, and it's just your boy. It's just your boy just being like, it's time to sink or swim, bitch. We're gonna make a VOD that's juiced. Okay? We're gonna show the fuck up. Which, by the way, I definitely need to do all the things we're talking about for streaming. It's at the fucking bottom of the list, unfortunately. Anyway, but yes, I started the, by the way, I didn't recognize yesterday what you were trying to tell me. I kept saying the world's greatest hero reincarnated as a typical noble. That's not I got my wires crossed. It's not the world. I guess I was getting my the world's greatest assassin reborn as a typical noble. No, the one I watched was the Demon King reborn as a nobody. That's what I watched. Very good. It's not as good as the spinning a whole ass castle on his finger guy, 'cause that's pretty huge. But it is good. That's why I haven't finished it though. Maybe it gets really good. But very good. Yeah. The fact that Multiverse had voice acting from almost all of the original VAs, like Kevin Conroy as Batman, Tim Daly, Superman, VAs Shaggy, Lee Velma, and yet is free to play is amazing. It's only a thing that Nickelodeon game is lacking. Yeah, the voice acting is nice. Fluff says it's a dumb metric, just like a rating for television that is recently the clickbait for both articles on the internet and video. Yeah. I think that's the whole thing about one of the things the book also says is that there's an importance for the main thing that YouTube cares about is not people just clicking the video. It's satisfaction with the video. So it's the way they measure that is by liking the video as well as watch time. So if you watch a lot of it, okay, odds are you probably liked it. You watched it and you fucking liked it? What? You watched it, liked it, and then went to your suggestion feed and clicked on a video similar to it. Or even just anything else. That's a huge indicator that you were satisfied by your experience. If you watched a video that was boring as hell, you're like, and then you ended it, and then you YouTube can see that you were inactive for 20 minutes, the guy left to go get food or something. Bad. Bad. No, that's not, stop feeding him that. It's yeah. But yeah, YouTube is accounting for your satisfaction levels, which is why clickbait is actually, people misunderstand and think clickbait. You want your viewer to feel satisfied by the prospect of the thumbnail, title, or question. That doesn't mean you can't make something sound more interesting to get people to buy in, but that does mean you can't lie. You know what I mean? So yeah. Because otherwise people will not feel, unless you have so much value stacked that you can get away with lying, but even YouTube will understand that's clickbait. So YouTube will scan through your video and see if there's any sort of relevant, even general images that are relevant to your thumbnail, and it will scan if it's not in the video, so it can tell that's not real. So then it will lower your score in the algorithm. It's like anytime people access a content, or sorry, it's like anytime people accuse a content creator for being responsible for their entire fan base, if they ever decide to mob or harass, sure, the creator can be more careful about what they say, or having to avoid calling people out, as it can become a witch hunt. But outside of that, it's not an individual's responsibility or even capability, exactly, to control how their audience behaves after they consume their content. Exactly. It's good chatting day. It's been a good chatting day. Well, I was gonna say, Fluff, about that specifically. To me, it's frustrating that I was gonna say something like that. Let me read your evaluation. Alright. Oh, I think I was gonna say something to the effect of, like, it was in regards to, like, the witch hunt. The one thing that I don't agree with is at all, really. I guess there's a specific example where I maybe could agree with it, but I hate the prospect of people saying punching down or punching up. I really dislike that. I think if somebody is demeaning, yeah, sure. That's kind of subjective, but sure. If somebody's like, this small nobody idiot is doing this to me, or like coming after me for this. But if you hear a disagreement or a criticism and you say, I don't agree with that because of this, 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 and then people are like, oh my God, they're punching down, they're doing this, they're like, I was like, no. I hate that concept in general about the punching down thing, because to me, in a sense, it means you have to perceive yourself as being higher than others, which to me is insane. I hate that. Like, it's like, also, if you're going to criticize somebody, you have the right to criticize, or you have the right to also be challenged on why somebody doesn't agree with your perception. And that's how you, like, you pass that back and forth. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, I don't agree that I'm responsible. And then someone says, well, I do. And then you're like, what is it? And then the person's like, they're attacking me, or I just got death threats. And it's like, bitch, I didn't do that. I can't control that. You could literally say, I got 50 death threats from you. It doesn't make any sense. Also, it could be anybody. Also, it could be a bot. This is the internet. You realize that you could say anything. If you're public in any way, you could get eviscerated. Like, it doesn't count, or at least to me, it doesn't count. Doesn't mean it's not toxic and terrible. Absolutely, we should condemn shitty bastards. But to say that somebody has like the innate ability to dominate and control people is insane. Yeah. Time flies when we're having fun. Yeah, it's true. I'm having a great time. Lonsigan says we started talking about business, then more to YouTube talk, and then a bunch of other topics, and now we're at 3 hours. Fluff says viewer engagement. It's a layered system. Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's a great way to put it. Yeah, engagement is the best way to put it. Like you said, Fluff says there's clickbait, and then there's a proper hook. Yeah, that's exactly right. Hook. Then you need to keep them engaged and interested throughout the video. Yes, give them a reason to leave comments, like, and subscribe and share. Yeah. I feel like that's the best way to describe it in story structure, Fluff, because there's hook, re-engagement, usually because people get bored after you start like foreshadowing what's to come. Then you start building to your climax. Or then you set up your climax, then you execute on whatever the climax is. But then because this can be like very weird. Sometimes the like hook can immediately feed into like the climax, which is like builds essentially. Like you show the build off, people are hooked. Then you kind of like say what's happening, and then you explain what's gonna take place. And then maybe you like save one cool moment, like you one-shotting a boss in the middle to act as like the holy fuck, this build can do that kind of metric. Anyways, but the thing that's important is there's the hook, the re-engagement, setup, climax, and then there's the goosh, and then there's the wrap-up. But the goosh is basically what the person describes as like a satisfaction metric. So it's the cherry on top for whatever you make. So if you're making a bit of content that like you reach the very climax, and then as the viewer starts dwindling down, this is the problem with like the wrap-up, essentially, whereas like 80% of people will just click off as soon as you start saying, thank you so much for the video, guys. If you guys haven't noticed, I've been fast as fuck about saying goodbye. Especially in Shurikens. I'm like, that's a bang. And immediately out. Because I know those motherfuckers are clicking off as soon as I say, and then they're gone. So I know that. So I try to make it quick. But one thing I should probably get in the habit of doing is as instead of like reaching the climax and then starting to get lower, you're basically ending it on a very like low note if you're dragging huge on the ending. So it's kind of good to end quick and like keep people as happy and satisfied with what they just experienced quick. Or you could add a goosh, is what they call it, it's basically just a cherry on top for whatever just happened. So as people are dying out after the climax, you add one more bump to make them more satisfied, basically. So that's like a lot of people will do bloopers, which is just like charming, seeing a person be a goofball and fail like a lot. So it's endearing. It makes you feel wholesome and like laugh usually. So it's like a last little like hurrah that makes you feel happy that you watched till the end. Another great example is like the Marvel ending points. So like the after credits scene is the best part of like the cherry on top of like something that makes you excited and re-engages you into the base. You know what I mean? Fluff says punching up or down is treating it as. Punching up or down is treating it as hierarchy and a superiority-inferiority complex, which is very unhealthy way of viewing. Yeah, okay, good. That's my whole thing. Good. I do think there's a good example of like why. It's like the same reason why like not all speech is free, because if you're calling for someone to get murdered, no. So there's a good reason for it, but that doesn't mean you just fucking throw out the whole baby with the bathwater. It means you account for the failure point, you know. Try to kill your idea and then account for the ways it could fail. You know, we were talking about this in the beginning of the middle of the stream about how to run or how to make something that works. Is you find the ways it could fail and you optimize to solve them. You don't just throw out the whole idea and say it's broken, can't be fixed, which is what most things seem to happen nowadays, which is shitty. Anyways, but yeah, you would optimize for it to succeed, or in the same way that. Like you'd sorry, in the same way like punching down could genuinely make good reason if that's what it kind of turned into. Like if PewDiePie got called out and said like, this person is attacking me, how dare they, they're disgusting, they should be ashamed, I do not deserve it. Like if they did that, where like it's very blatant that they're like stacking the absolute deck about like their audience, trying to make their audience feel something and specifically feel something bad towards the other people. That is something I could see that being considered to be less good. Like that I think it's pretty stacked to make that person feel like super attacked. I just hate the idea that like people can go out, dish out some shit, and then like act like they're so surprised that they got a response. You know, that's silly to me. But I hate you know what I hate even more, man? I hate when people accept that like they accept that those are the rules of the game. That they accept that, like, yes, I take responsibility for your perception of the world. I'm going to diminish my own because I want it to stop, or I whatever. I hate that. That's like the most part of this whole thing, I think. Is like, it's not like cancel culture is a thing, but when people genuinely allow others like hatred for them to kind of win, and it's always masked in like some sort of way. And there's good criticism, by the way. There's definitely criticism that can be valid, but yeah, a lot of times I find criticism is not done in a proper way, I guess. It usually feels like it's done in a way to get compliance and to not understand the person's perspective, but just to get them to kneel. And it's like, that's the shit that fucking makes my blood boil, you know? Fluff says, yeah, like the like videos that have a mini highlight, at the start, or the hook in the yeah. Or like a hook can also be communicative. So in the video, I'm not sure if you guys noticed. Now, part of me is like always worried I'm talking to you guys, but just because you guys are gonna be like, oh, I see it. Granted, our streams are dwindling like emaciated right now because I haven't put any like time into like amping them up, which I apologize for. Again, we're handling Brothers Grin, and as soon as I've done the course, I'm gonna be doing it to share Grin and then the streams. But it'll take some time to get to there. I'm at chapter 15. I still think I have like 4 or 5 more. But I'm not gonna say anything. I hope I make some ground. I hope I make some ground. But yeah. I always worry, like in the video that I just uploaded to the Share Grin channel, where we just talked about Spy X Family, should you watch, which is that series. I don't know. I made that video kind of more of like a weird, not just a video, but like, this is what the anime has in it and what's it about. it's kind of like an essay almost of like, here's what I think are interesting questions, here's what we can answer about them, here's my perception of those questions and my takeaway of them. But one of the things in the beginning of the book, beginning of the video, is kind of a hook of like asking people a question, which is kind of a provocative question, which was Spike's family overhyped? I kind of fucked up and I kind of gave you my answer immediately because I felt so bad. I felt like I don't believe that at all. I knew it would be an interesting way to get people to be like, is this motherfucker about to shit on what I love? Get people riled up. But then I was like, I can't do it. I like the show a lot. It's great. But yeah, but there's stuff like that, and there will be stuff like that in the upcoming videos as well. Not only in a lot of it. A lot of the stuff is now formatted in a way to hopefully optimize for viewer engagement in a way that fits, I think, which is not like, now let's switch to segment 2, you know, and it's like clearly a climax or something. Yeah. Lensing it says also 3 days using my new tablets. It's still great it's still great for games. No, it's still great. Like, it's perfect. Like, I've been using it to work on my project, and I've got a lot done. Have you just immediately flew into it and just not even a little bit of resistance? Although I do think it is one of those things where, like, I feel like, yeah, you probably are using it on a level in which is, yeah, it's still within you're just drawing, imagine, right? Yeah, I'm not sure if you're using, like, you can download extensions on some format things that, like, auto give like a deep shade of like a shading, almost like a shadow. It's not like it does it for you, but it kind of like makes it so that like the face is more lit than the arms, but it does it subtly enough, but adds so much pop, you know. Fluff says free speech isn't just a matter of saying whatever without any consequences. It's the key to the key is recognizing what you say can and will have consequences. Yeah, both positive and negative. Yeah. A lot of people that subscribe to the mindset of it being okay to punch up or down are sorta that you can dish up but can't take. Yeah. Fluff, on the topic of that, man, it's probably the last thing we'll talk about before we before you guys hopefully suggest me something we could go right. Yeah, I remember back in the day, it's probably fair. But to me, it always made me feel like, what? But back in the day, I collaborated with one of the people who I think is genuinely one of the most toxic people on the entire platform I've ever encountered. And I would consider him to be a friend. But looking back on it, none of what he did for me was friendly. Anyways. Back in the Battle War days a little bit, but anyways, I remember when I have no understanding of it sounds so virtue signaling weirdness, but I genuinely don't give a fuck about anything. Like, people say that I don't see color. I don't even care. It doesn't involve me. Like, it's just weird. Like, that's the thing that's like my core, where like I've always had that perception ever since I was a kid, was as long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't care. As long as you're not making someone unable to enjoy their life, etc. I don't care. You know, like I'm so not invested in your problems or your everything like that. And then there's a part of me that's like, okay, no, I genuinely love understanding people's pain and like all that stuff. Anyways, one of the things was we were playing Battleborn. And I've always one of my favorite animals in the entire world when I was a kid was monkeys. Love monkeys to bits. I ended up playing a character in Battleborn that was he was like the big general guy and happened to be black. And I used to always call people a silly little monkey because it was like when you're playing co-op and you're trying to like get one over on somebody. You're doing this. Now, what I said probably was absolutely wrong, but the thing that killed me is that like that never even came into my mind. Like, a person that is a human being that is fantastic and terrible, all in the same basket. Doesn't matter whatever. People are people. That they could be determined to be an animal. Now, granted, I get as a Native American person and Portuguese Native American side of things, you get called a savage, but like that's. Fuck, who cares? People are horrible, you know? I don't know. Anyways, but the thing that sucked is that person I already talked about wasn't so great. It made me, and again, it's probably for the best, probably was something that like could hurt somebody by misunderstanding that, and probably a good number of people. But having the life experience that I had, I never even thought that was a thing that people would connect to. I just called people silly and like a silly little monkey, because monkeys were silly. It's like a tiny little lemur thing, like, being weird, and yeah, I don't know. And again, having said it, probably a very good thing that I was like, oh, I shouldn't say that, because I didn't know that was a part of somebody's past and pain. But I did feel frustrated with that, like, but I wasn't the one that even considered this to be evil, or I didn't have any intent to do that, So there's a part of me that's like, I totally understand that someone else's pain, it's easy to avoid, just don't say that wrapped up, it's fine. But I did have an issue with people like seeing the worst in you when you were like less racist than the people who were racist, but yet people were still calling you racist for accidentally saying something that you had no understanding of what it could be, because you're not the psychotic racist that's making the leap to call someone an animal. I don't know, to me, that to this day, it's one of the more conflicting things I have in me. And I'm sure as I'm telling you guys a story, you're like, it's probably for the best you didn't say that, you stopped saying anything like that, Grin. I know, but it's not even just that, it's the intent that I had. Like we talked about, emotions aren't, your emotions are valid, but they're not necessarily truth. I still agree with that in regards to me. Like I feel a way, but the truth of it is that it probably would have hurt a mass majority of people. So therefore, probably a better thing to not say. Okay, I'll lean on truth, and I'll take my emotions and say, okay, I'll have to chew through that, I guess, or understand what that is. And then you realize, oh, okay, it's actually more complicated than that. It's okay to understand that you did something wrong. It's not okay to accept that others' perception of you being evil is correct. That you don't have to say that that's right, or even accept that you are in a way in the wrong, because your intention was you would not have even known that. So how could you have made a choice that you would not have known? But you can change. You can change and optimize yourself for the future to where you don't have to say that anymore. But yeah. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we're ending the stream now. Do we have anything that we could go? Anyone who could go rate? Oh. Fluff says, doesn't help that the bot that was announcing videos / streams has been broken yet again. Really wish it wouldn't be so inconsistent. Yeah, it's okay. I get it. To me, I do think the bot is nice, although I don't know. I do, especially having done all the stuff I've done with my YouTube channel and knowing how much is important, and like just reflecting that on our streams and me being like, oh, I'm like fucking calling it in. I will get better. Woof. Alone Sitting, it says, oh no, Grin, not our project. The business project still gotta get the other art project done. Oh, okay. Okay, so you're making okay. Interesting. Oh, so the tablet's been helping you just like type, or like are you literally writing on that too? Okay. Fluff says, it says more about the people that react negatively to what you say, but not taking into account how you say it, recognizing intent. Now, yes, it's good the thing that you recognize that this would be perceived as an insult, but it wasn't your intention for it to be. Yeah. I guess that's to me like the good. It's good to understand those things, I guess, because then you can kind of make an understanding judgment of like, well, I got to be clear on what I'm apologizing for, and also what I'm going to change. Like I'm not going to say sorry because I made you feel bad, because I had no way of knowing that was going to make you feel bad. I will say I'm sorry for having a negative effect on you. That's not my intention. That's never been my intention, and this is what I'll do to not have that effect on hopefully other people. Granted, I do not accept that I was malicious, because my intent was not to, but I accept that my actions may have had consequences that I was not aware of, and then I'll change. Like, as much as that's convoluted, it saves me my sanity and on character, if that makes any sense. Like I'm not gonna give somebody the ability to like determine who I am. So if someone's like, you're a racist, it's like, I know I'm not. Like, I mean, if you make a good argument for if I said something, then I'll adjust, but I don't think in my heart that I've ever made a judgment on something so meaningless. Yeah. Lone Sync, it says Renua. We rated her before. She was yeah, she was right. Oh, great. Fluff says self-drawn mole girl PNG. Oh, right, yeah. yeah. She's working up to get that avatar. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I don't think there's a video today. I think tomorrow there will be. There'll be the podcasty breakdown of Spy X Family, and then there'll be probably another one of those. Again, I want to say I can finish the book in this week, but I don't know. It's so much. Also, I'm getting more intense the more I go on, to where like I'm making fucking pages of notes. I'm reviewing the fuck out of them. The exercises are becoming more long-winded because they're actually like heavily important, like data, like how important that is to understand, how complex that is. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have it right here. Oh, spent Fall Guys, how cute. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day. Tell this person that she's nothing but lovely. She's been nothing but supportive and very sweet every time we've rated her. So good people all around. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. This was extremely long. I did not expect us to ramble this much, but a lot of conversation. If you want to hear about what I think about houses and how your boy is about riffing to himself when nobody is here, it's like a solid 15 to 20 minutes at the beginning of the stream where nobody was here and I was just having fun. I have more fun with you guys though. But yeah, thank you so much and bye guys. Also go tell the person that they're lovely. I always forget it takes a little bit of time to queue up everything. Oh, my sinuses are getting ahead of me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, love you. Tell this person that they're great. Goodbye. I had the button. It was a little bit delayed. Anyway, bye.